drink masquerading as a Mai Tai. It's way too coconut forward.
I need the ABV, Ray. Where does it stand on that sucker?
12.5%.
What? Well, now you're speaking my language, Ray. I don't care how coconut forward it is. Sign me up.
Drink minimum?
I'll cover you, honey.
I cannot wait, Ray, to literally sit down, probably starting around 10 a.m., and begin drinking. I plan, Ray, since it's fall and you need something to warm the soul, I'm thinking it's a whiskey weekend. So that is the plan. A bottle.
You actually drink an entire bottle, Kyle.
What do you mean, over the weekend?
Yeah.
No, probably not.
That's a lot.
Yeah, the recovery. Ray, I could, but the recovery is just not there anymore. Now, we rewind the clock 25 years ago, man. Unstoppable.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Well, I gotta say, just to update you from that discussion of last Friday, Ray, I did indeed show up at the cabin with a bottle of whiskey.
Okay.
My whiskey of choice, Crown Royal.
Right.
I did not finish the bottle, but I got to about this much left. it was a low end. Now I had help. My brothers were there. There was help involved, but I didn't finish the whole bottle. That would have looked a little immature if I finished the whole bottle, but I got close over the 2 nights.
Well, Kyle, I'm still proud of you. And
Yeah.
I know that most of the time we can count on you when it comes to alcohol consumption. So good to go.
Yeah, well, and the reason I just throw that out there, and I'm an open book to not only Ray, but also the Lunch Money audience, is I don't want people to think there are any skeletons in my closet. I have nothing to hide, which is usually what the person says who has a lot of things to hide. So maybe that's what I'm doing. I don't know. Maybe I have loads of things to hide, but I'm kind of taking the initial strike here, Ray, because I'm trying to ward off Daniel Snyder's private investigators, because you never know when the Guardian's owner is going to hire PIs to bring me down. We're getting reports today that Daniel Snyder instructed his law firms. He has multiple law firms that work for him to hire private investigators to investigate Roger Goodell and to investigate fellow NFL owners, so that he would have dirt on them and they would be unable to remove him from ownership of the Commanders.
Sounds like a Netflix special more than it does the real world. Like, hey, man, I'm always surprised, and then I'm not. People that gain that much money, gain that much power, how do they get it? They're oftentimes conniving. They're oftentimes skirting the line there between right and wrong. I guess that's how you get to be that powerful. But there are a lot of people in power, and certainly Snyder seems to fit into this group, that are just bad people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bad look for the NFL. It's a terrible look for him. I can only imagine a law firm. Like, what kind of law firm? Oh yeah, let's go dig up. I know they're out there, but it's like, did you just damage the law firm too? Like, I don't know, Kyle. It's just a mess.
Well, let's play this out, Ray. Like, Virginia McCaskey, who is got to be close to 90 years old. She owns the Bears. You think she's got any skeletons in her closet? Like, Dan Snyder's going after the bad news of Virginia McCaskey over the previous 9 decades. I wonder if you found anything for Virginia McCaskey.
From 1958, probably. Probably. The world was a different place then. How about, and this is so funny, and we say this all the time, just take care of yourself. Stop worrying about other people and what's going on. Just do the right thing yourself.
No, Ray. That's why you'll never be a billionaire.
Maybe.
You always have to be in fear of people taking your money, of not making enough money, and not having money to buy things. That's how billionaires be. They have an intrinsic fear, Ray, of waking up broke tomorrow morning.
Yeah, but can you imagine like the hubris and the arrogance and whatever term you want to use for Dan Snyder? If he were to sell the team right now, he would make billions of dollars. Like that, he would walk away making billions, and he's not going to do it. No, I'm not doing it. No. It's like, wow. Okay, I guess that's the world we live in, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list of owners, Ray. I'm guessing Jerry Jones probably has the darkest past. He just seems to have a little bit of dirt under the fingernails, if you know what I mean. So Jerry Jones, I would worry about. I will say there is no reason whatsoever to investigate Mark Davis of the Raiders. Like that guy, Ray. Like I am always surprised when I see Mark Davis that he doesn't have one of those like dual colored caps with the spinning propeller on top of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And like he's not what's the kid's name in the Jetsons? That's what I always
Yeah. I
say.
don't.
I think that's Mark Davis, so there's no reason to investigate him. I will say, Virginia McCaskey, you probably don't get to the spot you are in life in a city like Chicago unless you've done some underhanded things. So, I'm going to say Virginia McCaskey probably has issues. Got Stan Kroenke, evil.
Well, you know that. Yeah.
Yeah. Stan Kroenke's evil. The guy with Atlanta is the Home Depot guy, Arthur Blank. What do you think, Ray? A guy who's in the construction business. What do you think? A guy in the construction business who has made billions.
Clean, totally clean.
Okay. What about the Packers? The Green Bay Packers Inc. is the actual. Now, do you think that Daniel Snyder said investigate all like 4 million Packer owners and tell me, like, there's got to be a guy on there with like 5 DWIs for the Packers?
I would say he didn't say that, but the lawyers being lawyers absolutely did it so they could bill the hours, copious amounts of them that they went looking.
I always wonder too about like the daughter, like Jody Allen has the Seahawks, but she's like a trustee. We've got Amy Adams Strunk of the Titans. She's now handling things. Let's see, Clark Hunt with Kansas City, Jim Irsay with the Colts, Michael Bidwell with the Arizona Cardinals. Now Bill Bidwell was kind of a thief. But I think his son's a pretty good dude. I would just love to see the report that they probably came back with a report, Ray, and they said, you know what? You're actually the most crooked guy we could find anything on, Daniel Snyder. Like, you want to put a stop to this before we have to turn this over to the league?
Yeah. Here's the NFL file. Here's your file. Yeah. By the way, our boss, Matt Deutsch, is in the chat room. He says it's Elroy is the name of the kid.
Elroy.
Yes. Boy, Elroy. But yeah, no, this is just, like I said, it's like a movie, and it's corporate politics and all that. It's just billionaires fighting billionaires, and people wonder why some people have problems with them.
Yeah, and I gotta say, it's not illegal to hire PIs. There's no illegality. I've hired, oh gosh, over the years, probably 2 on Ray, just to make sure, like, he really does live in California. He really does wear glasses. So I've had PIs tail people. Have you ever come across a private investigator, Ray, or anything where you've looked at somebody and said, interested, but I need a PI before I'm really going to jump in on this one?
No, but I have been the object of the sting, if you will. Yeah, I broke up with my girlfriend, my 5-year girlfriend through college, and her boyfriend at the time was a police officer, a dirty cop, and so he actually stalked me out. Sent her pictures of me, like in the parking lot, getting in my car. He apparently was hiding in bushes and the whole thing, saying he was going to kill me. Like, this is legit. This totally happened. My car was then stolen. It happened to be found in Oakland, where his beat was as a cop. Really surprising.
How have I never heard this?
Yeah, this is true. This is all true story.
Somebody actually threatened to kill Ray.
Yeah, and had sent pictures of me.
It's not because you told him to start Austin Eckler and he had 32 yards. It's nothing to do with fantasy sports.
It was because I was still talking to my ex-girlfriend of 5 years. He thought there was something going on. There wasn't. So yeah, this was back. So I would have been 28 years old. This is before I knew you, Kyle. So that's why you probably never heard the story. But yeah.
Well, I got to say, Ray, you were lucky. You're very lucky that you didn't end up on Dateline with that kind of story.
When she told me, I said, that's it. This is our last conversation. That dude's a nutcase. Turned out actually he ended up getting arrested later for running a prostitution ring in a prison. So he actually was arrested and went to jail. So my original belief about this guy being a criminal, it bared itself out as he went to jail.
Now, I don't know if anybody else who's watching us, listening to us, probably our producers, Heather and Josh. I don't know if anybody else feels like they've just been hit with a blizzard of information. But right, I feel like I've showed up at a Golden Corral and I'm the only person in the place. There is just too much food. There is just too much to nibble on here. Yep. And I don't even know where to start. So in college, you were dating a girl for 5 years.
Correct.
You broke up with her, and then she started dating a cop.
Correct.
The cop thought you were still macking on his girlfriend, right?
Correct. They would probably would have used the term back then at that time, too.
Yeah, macking on the girlfriend. So the cop proceeded to follow you around town and take photos of you getting in and out of your car.
Correct.
Okay. And then I missed something about, then he sent the photos to the girlfriend or something and said, this is what Ray's up to.
Yeah. And I said, then stop talking to me because this guy is going to try to kill me. Like, this is not. I used to carry my 32-inch Easton baseball bat with me when I walked my dog. Because I also, just to let everyone know, Ray's not a wuss. This guy, and this is how I profiled him. And again, it was accurate because years later, this prostitution ring. He was 6'2", 275-pound muscle guy. He was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay. And so this dude could have broke me in half, right? Like if he really wanted to. So yeah, carried a baseball bat around for self-protection.
I underrated this. This is not a Dateline episode. This is a Lifetime special, Ray.
Absolutely. Could have been.
At least 3 hours on a Tuesday night.
Could have been.
The problem is we're going to have to come up with a name for this mini-series. So if anybody in the chat room has a name for the time where Ray Flowers was being tracked and followed by an Oakland police officer,
correct.
Is that right?
Yep.
Who's no longer in the force, right? We don't want people rooting around.
No.
And
after being arrested for running a prostitution ring in jail and sentenced to prison, he is no longer a police officer. Correct.
Okay, I've got a name for this Lifetime show, Ray, right off the top of my head. Now, it's not going to be as good as any of the gummies that we had yesterday with MLB,
right.
But I'm thinking, Ray, we should call this Flowers and Badges. So it would play on your name, but also the police badge. Right. Flowers and Badges, and it would be told from the perspective of the long-suffering woman in this story. Now the question becomes casting.
Right.
Who do we got here for Ray Flower? This is difficult. I don't know anybody that really. Who is that guy? I think the guy on Arrested Development, the bald guy. Wore the glasses. If you have to grow a white beard, Ray, I think he could play your part.
But you have to remember, this is when I was 28, so I still had a little bit of hair. I had no gray at 28. I usually wore a goatee. I was bald, but I had zero gray at 28 years of age. So
okay,
if we're doing age appropriate, it's gonna have to be it's gonna have to be Zac Efron or something.
Well, if it's bald, no beard, Ray, I was going to suggest like Vin Diesel, because I'm sure back then you were lifting weights, you were fit, all that good stuff.
The problem was Vin Diesel compared to the police officer would have been small. So then the police officer would have to be the biggest human being on the planet.
Okay, man, I really want to get back to this. Now, we've got 3 hours, Ray.
Yeah.
There's a lot. We got Thursday night football.
Yeah, we can get back
we got injury news like crazy, the baseball playoffs, all this stuff. But I really feel like this deserves its own special on BSN,
okay,
right here on the network, like 2 hours of reliving these. So this is about 15 years ago, right?
Well, 20 now. Yeah, I'm old. 20. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so well before I met you, and somehow after a dozen years of me and you hanging out, the first I hear it, the first, and I once considered you a friend.
Mm-hmm.
This is disappointing to me.
I mean, I will say this, and I was tagged this years ago. I know the Oracle is my nickname, but I was tagged with the most interesting man in fantasy sports by a few people. I've lived an interesting life for a guy that's never really lived an interesting life, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So yeah, I got some good stories.
Yeah, for a guy who's never left his basement, Ray, you do live an interesting life.
Well, now you know why I don't leave my basement. I'm afraid to leave the house. I'm going to get murdered by an old police officer.
We do have some suggestions for the Lifetime show in the chat room. Get in the Game says stop and smell the flowers.
Okay.
That's pretty good with the whole police thing. Stop.
Yeah.
And smell the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Wookie comes with planting flowers, which an officer might have planted stuff on you, Ray.
Or planted me in the ground if he killed me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we got to look at also of how this could have ended, right? You could have been, illegally charged,
Oh,
sentenced
absolutely.
to prison. He could have planted evidence on you. It may have not been all bad. You end up in the California penal system,
Hmm.
and maybe you could become a part of that prostitution ring that he was running
Maybe.
at the jail.
Well, it's funny that you say that, not the prostitution part, but the planting of evidence. That's what I told her when we were having the discussion. I said, I'm gonna wake up one day with 8 police officers at my front door, and guess what? There's a kilo of coke in my trunk. Like it's gonna happen. So that was out. No, don't talk to me. That was gonna happen. Absolutely.
Oh man, how life changes. If one little decision, if Ray had maybe confronted that officer,
Hmm.
things could have gotten ugly, very
You'd be
ugly.
solo on BSN.
Well, I think it's fair to say that's our best start to a show in 6 weeks. We are learning a lot about Ray Flowers. Now, I assure everybody, I've got skeletons, but I don't believe I've ever had an officer of the court thinking about planting things on me, chasing me down, spending his time. I wish somebody cared about me that much. Nobody does. Nobody.
Careful what you wish for, Kyle. You've heard that saying.
Nobody wants to follow me around. Okay, we welcome you to Lunch Money. Kyle Elfrink here, Ray Flowers there. Big thanks to Heather Klein, Josh Winchester. I'm guessing they will probably be reusing some of what we just talked about in future days. So I would expect that to pop up at a moment's notice. We are busy today. But I guess we got a little less busy because, Ray, we were planning to get set for some Thursday night baseball action in the Bronx. We have just got news that there will be no game tonight between the Yankees and the Guardians.
Yeah, it's from the Yankees official Twitter account. It's being rescheduled for tomorrow at 1:07 Eastern time. So I don't know. I mean, we had the long delay with the Braves game, right? Whether that's good for the players, good for the game. Do you like the idea of canceling a game hours before? Do you? I mean, because the problem with this is it rains hard for an hour, and then, I mean, our news, the more power to the people that read the computer screens and everything, the forecasters and all that. But that's not an exact science. I mean, have you ever read a report that said it was going to be 78 degrees and it was 59? It happens all the time.
I don't know if they're all 20 degrees, Ray. Give the guys some credit.
69. But you know what I'm saying? It's we had that huge storm. You remember, what was it, week 2, whatever, the NFL season? And I was on Twitter answering Stardom Siddums on Sunday morning. And it was the storm in California, the storming. Oh my gosh. It was sunny. It was 7:15 in the morning. There was the sky. I could see the sun, and the fantasy universe is panicked because all the reports say that the Niners are going to be playing in a snowstorm or something. And it didn't even happen.
Well, I'm pulling up the weather forecast for the Bronx. So this is where the Yankees and the Guardians are supposed to. I don't think there's any rain now. There's like a 45% chance coming up in maybe 45 minutes. Then it drops to 30. Then it goes back to 55. Ray, there is a lot of rain in the forecast here. I mean, we're looking at an 80% chance of rain from 7 p.m. Eastern until 3 a.m. Right. Like, do you really want to wait that out? Like, when you see that kind of forecast, don't you just bag it and say, we'll play tomorrow?
I was looking on my iPhone. We had a 90 or 100% chance of rain from like 5 in the morning in California till like 11. And it rained 1/100 of an inch the entire time.
Well, they didn't say how much rain. They just said between these hours.
Technically it rained, but it was 1/100 of an inch. I'm just saying, I don't know. I mean, I guess people will make the argument, then they don't have to go, and then go home and then go again on another day. I mean, I just, it seems.
I feel as if I'm speaking to my father, who's probably watching the show right now, because Ray, he is just like you. He loves finding these moments where the weathermen are entirely wrong. And I just want you to put yourself in the weatherman's boots, Ray, okay? Because remember, the industry you're in, Ray, is a little bit like predicting the weather, right?
Totally fair. Yeah.
And believe it or not, Ray Flowers does get a few things wrong. Totally. He looks at all the science. He looks at all the numbers. He looks at all the forecasts. And Ray, even you get some things wrong in the fantasy world. Please have mercy on these weathermen who are pretty well doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. It's not their fault. It's what's being done with the information they're providing, right? Like, I make mistakes. They make mistakes. They try hard. I try hard. They're diligent. I'm diligent. They're studious. I'm studious. But yeah, we're never. But that's kind of the point. If we're not right all the time, why are we taking it? Is it if it's an inerrant statement? Like, why are we shutting? Again, I don't know. Maybe it rains 3 inches in New York tonight. Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying, just surprising to me.
Well, Ray, the local news here in St. Louis, one of the stations has their Channel 4. They have a temperature guarantee where whatever they say, they're going to be within 4 degrees of that, like whatever the high, let's say they say the high. Yeah.
Okay.
And when they miss it, and this is an idea for you, Ray,
Okay.
when they miss it, they make a donation to a charity. So maybe you can create something like this in the fantasy world where whenever you really swing and miss, nobody's upset. Because, it's like a bell ringing and an angel gets its wings. Even when you screw up, Ray, somebody will be happy because the Ronald McDonald House will be putting on a new front door at somebody's house.
That's a really good idea.
Go.
I've never heard of anyone doing that in weather. I mean, it's a really cool idea.
Well, you got to get a sponsor too. We don't want this coming out of your own pocket.
Right,
well,
right.
A little out of your own pocket. But I am signing up Ray to put this idea and kind of get it all together. That Ray is so, even when he misses, somebody wins. Because Ray, I think that's what we need in the fantasy world is nobody's perfect. Even my top 10s, they're not perfect. Like they're close, but they're not totally perfect.
But Kyle, when I miss, the people listening miss, someone else already wins because of my miss. So there's already a winner. If you look at, can I raise a point? Well, I'm going to raise a point that I brought up yesterday. Can we just play these games on the West Coast?
There's no rules here, Ray. We don't have to. The man in the blue, you are now allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Take the floor, Ray.
Can we play the games on the West Coast? Now we have 4 games.
On and on with this time zone crap.
Now we're up,
dude.
Well, now we're likely to have 4 games in 4 days. So now this has completely changed the outlook of the series, right? Because now bullpens, which are supremely important, are even more important. They're going to be even more taxed. Depth is even more important. And again, if it's the best team that's supposed to win, okay, if that's the way people are looking at it. But we are putting a severe, not tax, but a severe stressor on these teams' pitching staffs by having to scrunch now 4 games in 4 days.
Well, Ray, I would remind you that on the West Coast, we have things like earthquakes.
We have a lot of
We have wildfires. Sure. These can also cause delays in series. I know you think this is heaven on earth out there. Mm-hmm. Like what could go wrong at Ray? It's, there are other, why don't we just play the games in, Butte, Montana? It's probably wonderful at this point in the year. They probably don't have big storms blow up. It's a little chill in the air.
Okay. Yeah. And it's not practical to play games on the West Coast. But how about this? Here's a real idea that could actually work. Put a freaking dome on your stadium if you're East Coast.
Well, right. Again, right. Not everybody has $2 billion.
Well, but I'm just saying.
I know Arthur Blank of the Falcons can kind of push people around when it comes to construction.
Yeah.
In New York, you can't do that, Ray. I mean, you know what it costs to get a guy to even sew a button on a sleeve? It's like $50 to get somebody to do that.
Any new stadium built middle of the country to the East Coast that doesn't put a dome on it is just dumb.
No.
It's either 110 degrees or raining.
Wait a second. Are you the traditionalist? You're trying to eliminate outdoor stadiums?
I think eliminating outdoor stadiums is an absolutely horrible idea. But I also want games to be played. So
Ray, it's one day. God, is your night ruined because you don't get to watch the Yankees and the Guardians?
This happens all the time in Major League Baseball in particular, especially early in the year in the month of April.
For 100 years.
Yeah, I know. But the problem is baseball changes the rules then. So we're playing 7-inning doubleheaders. So we're canceling games. We're playing 7-inning doubleheaders. We're losing reliever innings. We're losing players at bats in the fantasy game. It directly impacts us, not to mention it changes the structure of the damn game. So, this is not just Ray being stupid. There are legitimate game issues that I'm just trying to say.
I don't think here's my viewpoint. I don't think it's worth it to the Yankees to spend an extra probably $1 billion, honestly, to put a roof on their stadium. Like, what is the financial incentive for these teams to do?
There is none.
There's none.
Right.
Let's think about this realistically. The Yankees don't lose anything here. They don't. They'll play the game tomorrow.
What if it rains tomorrow?
They'll play the game the next day. But it's not like the game won't be played.
I know, but you know how this goes. Then the next series is delayed. then the next series is delayed, then we're more into the football season, less people are watching. It's just
Ugh.
it never
Well,
stops.
and Ray, if we put a dome on every state, let's say baseball pitches in, and they love Ray Flowers' idea, and they say, let's give every team a dome. Let's give every team a retractable roof. You know what then happens? Who do you think pays for that retractable roof on every single major league stadium? Exactly. And not just with tickets, but also with your cable bill. Okay. If you think you're upset about one game a week being on Apple Plus, just wait until every game a week is on Apple Plus.
Well, then
you can be upset.
and I could solve this. Play on the West Coast. Problem solved. I just
Well,
solved
you're
it.
going to play in, I mean, no offense to the people in Fresno, but nobody wants to, there's not enough towns even in California, Ray. We can't put everybody in LA and San Francisco. I mean, we're going to end up in like Paso Robles playing baseball games. I mean, come on.
Just play the games in Oakland. The A's don't have anyone. They care. We could certainly use their stadium for a real team. I don't know.
Ray, this is not a good idea.
No.
It's just one rain out. Like, and think about the positives, Ray. Yesterday, when we had that lengthy rain delay with the Braves and the Phillies, did you see? The game was, I think, supposed to start at 4:30. It started 7:30,
like
maybe
3
8
hours.
o'clock, whatever the
Mhm.
time was. During that rain delay, Ray, the Braves knocked 50% off all concessions.
I didn't see that.
So instead of a $14 beer, you now only paid $7. Instead of an $8 hot dog, you only paid $4. These are the friendly gestures that a Major League Baseball team gives the fan base when they don't have a dome. You get a dome, Ray,
Right.
and the concessions are full price. In fact, if you get a dome, Ray, the concessions probably go up and up and up. So I am anti-retractable roof, anti-dome. Play the games under the sun. Let's deal with weather. I don't want every game, Ray, to be 72 degrees with no wind.
Okay. And that's completely fair. Well, how about this then? How about we do it like, I don't know, they did it the first 145 years they played baseball. We just play the games. We don't cancel games hours in advance. If it rains, we stop the game. When it stops raining, we start playing again. Why don't we do that? Like, what? Why? Like, I mean, unless there's a danger, like in the NFL, if there's lightning or something, there's danger. Okay. Other than that, why? Why not just
Have you
play?
ever tried to play baseball in a downpour, Ray?
No, I'm saying if it's a terrible downpour, pull them off the field, then put them back out there. Like this is another
That's
thing.
kind of what they do, isn't it?
But in this instance, they won't do it. They're not even attempting to play the game.
But think about this from the players. And again, I think we got to put, I know the rich players, who cares about them? Ray, if somebody said, Ray, I want you to show up for lunch money.
Right.
It's not going to start at noon, but we think at some point today it will happen. But we want you to be on call the whole time, like hang out at your chair. It may be 3 o'clock. It could be 5 o'clock. It may be 8 o'clock, right? But we need you to hang out in your office all day long just in case we decide we want to have this show. Ray, that's what baseball would be doing to the Yankees and Guardians if they made them wait around all day. It's like you got to show up at, what time is it? 12:30. There would be people already, players already at the ballpark. You really want to make them wait around till midnight on a game they might play, they might not? Just bag it and play it tomorrow.
But what happens if they can't play it tomorrow? We see that we're just delaying things. So now we're giving 2 days off, which changes not just the bullpen usage and the cramping of the games. Now the guys get to pitch again. So now we've cycled over through because they've gotten 2 days instead of 0 days off. They've gotten 2 extra days. Now we're back to the game one starters again. So it's changing the complexion of the series because of the weather. By the way, I also saw this. There's a conspiracy theory, which I know we had the blanket and space entity.
Wait, are you just quitting on the argument?
No, I'm coming back because I saw this conspiracy, which I thought you would like. The game tonight was canceled because Amazon paid off Major League Baseball to cancel their game to make sure everyone would watch the crappy game they have on Thursday Night Football. That's the.
Can I just say the Venn diagram of Commander Bear fans and Guardians Yankees fan, Ray, they're not. There's no connection.
There's no
They're like this.
I just thought I'd
No.
throw that out there. Because apparently it's not really raining. It's not really going to rain. It's just because Amazon wants people to watch Thursday Night Football.
Well, I think it's probably more baseball scared of the football game because they may be scared, Ray, of saying, "Oh my God, that game crushed us in the ratings." And it was on a streamable only platform where I think this game tonight was at Fox, FS1,
I
TBS.
yeah, I haven't looked it up yet.
One of them. I don't know. Maybe baseball got a little chicken leg, Ray, and they ran away from this one.
Well, and
I have no issue, Ray, with the fact they back. In fact, Ray, I'm starting to pick up the reason you want to get rid of rainouts and you want to put roofs on everything. It has to do with no hair on the top of your head. You're afraid of the sun, right? You don't want the sun messing with you. I get it. I get it. Like me, Ray, ask everybody with hair. They love baseball outdoors. People without hair, they want domes. It's a proven fact.
well, a lot of times though, people without hair, such as myself, it's because you played baseball your whole life and you wore a hat, right? And it killed your hair. I know that's wives' tale.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
We saw this, by the way, in the chat. Chris C said, "What if you paid for tickets, took a flight, and you have to leave tomorrow?" Which is true. In the playoffs, this happens too. You know, it's
Okay,
not.
here, I have a solution. Okay. Sell the tickets. Okay,
Well, yeah, but that's but you don't get a refund.
What am I going to do in New York City today? I have nothing to do. I'm here for the baseball game. It's been canceled. Like there is nothing in this city to entertain me for the next 24 hours. Come on.
But you flew out there. You paid $500 for a plane ticket. You paid $500 for a baseball ticket. You could sell the ticket, but you're out the $500. You're out the time. I mean, give it a shot. I agree.
Okay, that probably does affect 7 people.
Now in the come on, Kyle. The playoffs, people going to New York. There's thousands of people that did that. Thousands.
Really?
Yes, thousands.
Thousands were flying in for just this game tonight.
Maybe not just this game, for the multiple games. What if they came in for 2 games and now they're only going to see 1 game?
Well, Ray, what if they came in and they thought they were going to get to watch DJ LeMahieu and all of a sudden they found out he has a broken toe and he's not on the roster? What if they came to watch Aroldis Chapman? They flew all the way from Cuba to watch Aroldis Chapman and he's not on the roster. Right now, we give them refunds? No. Buyer beware. It says so on the back of the ticket, Ray. Okay. No refunds. Rainouts are possible. You may get stuck up a creek. If the warning is printed on the ticket,
I can't believe you're pro Dan Snyder. I can't believe it. You're pro owner.
I don't know. My gosh, how time flies. I don't even think we've gotten to the lunch menu.
We haven't.
We have.
It was my fault. I apologize to all the listeners today.
We talked about Ray fearing for his life literally 20 years ago. Now we've got Ray Flowers telling us that every ballpark, including like, do you really want to invest, Ray, $800 million in Pittsburgh Stadium? And like you ruin it. Think about that, Ray. Pittsburgh. Everybody says best stadium in baseball. What a view. Ray wants to ruin that view so that the Pirates don't have to worry about rainouts. That's what you're saying, Ray. You want to ruin that view just so Ray Flowers can be dry and watch a baseball game.
You know, I appreciate that comment for you. I also appreciate that the comment took 20 minutes for you to come up with, Kyle. So I'm
ruining the view.
Yeah, I mean,
Ray, think about this. In the Bay Area, Ray, what would San Francisco's ballpark look like with a retractable roof? It'd be a disaster.
Well, it would if the roof is retractable, it's fine, but the retractable roofs are gazillions of dollars, to your point.
But yeah. and I'm seeing this in the chat. You still get it. No, you don't. They have to build up a back wall behind the outfield. Seattle doesn't have a view. Seattle has a back wall for the outfield because they got to hang the roof from something. Your view is if you're at the very top of the upper deck and you can see the Space Needle off in the distance. There's no view in Seattle. You're staring at the back of a black wall in right field. Come on. Ray wants walls up. Here I am, Ray. I'm wanting sunshine. I'm wanting nature. Right. You're wanting to put up walls.
I want walls at baseball stadiums. I want no walls and openness in homes. I don't want any walls in a house. I'd like to live in an Eichler, which is glass walls everywhere. But yeah, put up walls in baseball. Let's go. Play some games.
I will say to your point, Ray, if they don't get rain today, they've got a problem.
And what if it doesn't rain today and then it rains tomorrow? It's like, God, better not. Fingers crossed. I hope it doesn't go that way.
Since I got it up, Ray, let me check. I don't want to leave you hanging here because Ray's all of a sudden worried about the Guardians and the Yankees. Literally the only person in America who cares about this team. Okay, for tomorrow, and this is the Bronx specifically, Ray. This is not New York. It's not Yonkers or Oyster Bay or anything like that. This is the Bronx. Tomorrow, Ray, high of 67. mostly cloudy skies, 10% chance of rain. I think we're in the clear. Okay. I
Okay.
think we're going to be fine. Today, a high of 70 with a 62% chance of rain, which graduates to 80 and 90 in the evening.
Okay.
So, Ray, you're going to be fine tomorrow,
I
okay?
hope
They
so.
look at this stuff. Believe me, they just didn't cancel it and say, oh, hell, we should have checked what the weather is tomorrow. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Hope the modeling is correct.
Well, and like people were saying, our chat room, it's a great conversation. Oh, they should play in the rain. They should have to deal with the elements. That's kind of what I'm arguing. If we put a roof over the stadium, we've eliminated all weather. So you can't say they need to play in the weather and then say your solution is to put a roof over the stadium so that there's no weather.
But they don't play
Come
in the
on.
weather. That's the problem. They're not even going to
They
try to
do
play in the weather.
Ray. I have been to dozens of postponed and rain delay theater. They play in the weather. They get back out there. That's why they have that magic dirt that sucks up all the water. That's why they have great drainage on these ballparks. They play in the weather. Come on.
Yeah. By the way, and that's another thing I think. What about the wet field and all that kind of stuff? I'm telling you this, like you spend $1 billion and your field doesn't drain, people should immediately be sent to prison. No, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean? It's like, how are I can go out on the field on my street and it's wet and it's crappy. Okay. But how is it Major League Baseball stadiums, NFL stadiums, they get rain and it's like, there's an inch of like, what? Like how? You can see guys with squeegees and they're pushing pounds of water. Like, come on, they got a better drainage than that. Come on.
I mean, maybe we can get somebody from Scott's to come on the show and tell us. I don't know, Ray. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
My forte is not plumbing, and how to get rid of 500 cubic inches of water in 30 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, usually we hit you the lunch menu in the first segment. I tell you what, why don't we just call it quit here on the first segment? We'll check in with Duke. We'll get his den. And Ray, then we'll come back with our lunch.
Okay.
And we'll get things back in order, get things back rolling. I had a lot of fun with this. It's always more fun when you're totally right. So I enjoyed it. But coming up next on Lunch Money, we will hit up the lunch menu, kind of give you a rundown of everything we've got coming your way, including a preview. We're going to spend 2 hours on the Commanders Bears today.
Looking forward to it.
No, we're not, people. I'm not even going to spend 2 hours on the Bills and the Chiefs today. I sure as hell ain't spending 2 hours on the. We will spend 10 minutes, maybe. We'll spend more than that. Tyler Beaker's going to join us. So a lot on Thursday Night Football. Lunch menu coming up. We got lunch hunches, bet du jours, a little more baseball. Ray's going to tell us how he's going to pay for all these domes. I mean, my God, this guy's Joe Biden here, putting everybody back to work by spending money.
Trying to help. Trying to help.
Ray is building back better.
There you go.
30 buildings are going to get billion-dollar roofs. That sounds like DC, Ray. You got a future in politics, but
yep, I'm heading there. We've gone there ourselves to Congress, you and I, back in the day. Maybe I should go
billion-dollar roofs for everybody. Let's hand them out. You get a billion-dollar roof. You get a billion-dollar roof.
Sports are important, Kyle. They employ a lot of people.
Those 5 days a year where a game could be ran out. Okay, enough of us. Let's hand it over to Duke. I think he's talking some NFL, maybe some Thursday Night Football. Let's see what he's got in the den right now on the Bettor Sports Network.
Good afternoon, bettors. It's your boy Duke, back and profitable this morning and better than ever. Presented to you, as always, by FantasyGuru.com. Welcome back to Duke's Den, where I try to make you money one bet or a time. Of course, yesterday I gave you 2. And we went, whoa, we're 2-0. Hit our Champions League bet. We parlayed the EPL teams, Tottenham and Liverpool, to win. Of course, they do. One 7-1, the other 3-2. But nervy times. Liverpool was tied 1-1 at halftime with Rangers, and it was a little bit back and forth. Remember, they were like minus 600 to win. Actually, they were like minus 230 by the time it kicked off. Sat some starters. It was a little bit of an issue. Mo Salah comes on late, bags a hat trick in 6 minutes to make that a comfortable win. Of course, Tottenham wins as well, 3-2. But not just there. How about college football? We get an easy under. I know no one loves betting unders, but I'm telling you that Thundering Herd offense was a little bit overrated. Of course, Louisiana Lafayette gets it done there. Actually, if you were listening to the show yesterday, I was like, I kind of lean Lafayette plus 10.5, but I'm just going to take the under. Both would have cashed. So congratulations on a 2-0 day. We've had a couple of 1-1 splits, even an 0-1 day, so good to get back on the winning side. It is Thursday. That means we have Thursday Night Football. We also have college football as well. Hours 2 and 3, I'll be touching on those, of course, giving you a side in total on this NFL game tonight. But yesterday, I teased it. Survivor is continuing to go on. If you're still in, congratulations. The majority of people are not. Let's take our entry for instance. Some of the staff over at Fantasy Guru put together some money. We entered a couple teams, $1,000 a pop, into the Circa Survivor contest. 6,133 entries started. We are down to 718. Last week, 449 people were eliminated with the Jaguars, 48 with the Packers, 4 with the Broncos, 1 with the Browns, 1 with the Cards, 1 with the Rams. We really thought Tampa Bay was going to be chalk last week. That's who we went with. Of course, they had a comfortable win over the Falcons. Got a little hairy late there, roughing the passer, whatever. But for the majority of the game, very comfortable. Jaguars, 7-point favorites, lose outright. We've had several of those this year. So let's look at this week's schedule. In case you are still in, who are you looking at? Obviously, we've used the Packers, but if you have them at home to the Jets as more than a touchdown favorite, seems like a pretty good spot to attack. I like the Chargers at home against the Broncos, Monday Night Football. Only 4.5-point favorites, so not the biggest spread. If you got the Eagles, maybe taking on Cooper Rush with the Cowboys. Where I think we're going to, of course, Buccaneers playing the Steelers, if you got them. I think we're going to fall as the 49ers. Away, playing at Mercedes-Benz to the Falcons, but 5.5-point road favorites here. Falcons good at covering, bad at winning. I think that's where we're going, 49ers. Bets next hour. Adios.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
How about that call by Duke? Survivor going with a road team. The Niners on the road at Atlanta. We welcome you back to Lunch Money. Kyle and Ray eventually going to get to the plan and what we kind of set out to do on this show. We always like to begin the show, 40 minutes in, with the lunch menu. We usually hit you in the first segment. We saved it till the second segment because we just had big time things to discuss, huge issues to discuss. Ray has been threatened by Oakland police officers before. In fact, they have followed him as if he's just a everyday criminal, according to him. Also, Yankees Guardians game is off. Ray does not agree with that. He's worried about tomorrow's weather. Weathermen tell us it's going to be fine. Ray's worried. So we'll see if that's going to be an issue tomorrow. That leaves us with only one game today in baseball. That would be the other series, which, Ray, they have a dome.
Nice.
They have a dome in Houston, Texas. They don't like playing in the elements. They don't want to deal with it. You never know when it's going to be a mosquito invasion down in Houston, Texas. They used to have, the Colt 45s, Ray, they actually played outside way back in the 60s, the precursor to the Astros. Mm-hmm. And all the players, Ray, swore that the mosquitoes were like as big as your fist. That's what they said.
Right.
I mean, that's back in the 60s. And, they were doing a lot of like radiation testing and stuff with the Manhattan Project. But the mosquitoes were big back then. That's why they built the dome, the Astrodome, the first dome. So lo and behold, Ray, this big conversation of domes. Here we got it, man. The place where they started covering the baseball field in Houston today. We'll see how Seattle looks. That's an afternoon game today. Nothing tonight. National League has the day off as they get set for tomorrow. Let's jump into our lunch menu, Ray. We'll start with our appetizer. What is on your mind today?
Yeah, this is a baseball story, and it's just we see something like this happen frequently, and that is players losing control. We saw Cal Quantrill do this too, right? Or was it Plesac? Which one of the Guardians punched the mound, Kyle? Help me out. Was Plesac punched the mound and broke his hand?
Yeah, Plesac.
Phil Matan did the same thing of the Astros. And it was a couple days ago. I don't know if anyone saw the story, but I just thought I'd bring it up again because there's all this talk about Devontae Adams off the field and pushing. How about when players themselves are just morons? Not when they're put in a position with a photographer getting in the way of everything. The Astros reliever, broke a finger on his pitching hand when he went in to the locker room and punched his locker. Now, I don't know how many people haven't seen Bull Durham by now. I assume it's required watching for any baseball player, right? What's the big scene when there's the fight at the pool? Which hand did you hit me with, meat?
Yeah, never use your pitching hand.
What are these guys doing? Like, it's bad enough that I've been angry and hit things. We've all done it. Okay, I'm not, but your job is your arm. You can't be doing this. So the Astros are without a reliever. He gave up a hit to his brother, which I guess was infuriating to him. That's another. We could go and go into therapy to explain that one out. But players have got to do a better job. Again, the Devonta Adams thing. Again, I don't blame him. I think the circumstances and all that. When you do something on the field and you go to the locker room and injure yourself and damage yourself and hurt yourself and damage your team, that's when we should be. This should be a much bigger story than the Devonta Adams thing, but of course it isn't.
Yeah, Ray, it's Nick Maton. Nobody really cares. That's why it's not a story. Nobody cares.
But isn't it a bigger story? I mean, or am I just really? I'm not trying to be. It's a bigger story.
So you're saying these idiots? Why are they still punching with their moneymaker? I guess.
Number one. Number two, why is it not a bigger story when you're damaging your team, not because of some random thing? All anyone wants to talk about is Devonta Adams going to jail or something. Like, everyone is up in arms about this whole thing with him, but no one talks about a player doing something to injure himself and damage his team. Not some random happenstance, some dude running across. That's totally out of. This was a scenario that could have been completely avoided if he showed any modicum of self-control. Totally different, and no one's talking about it.
Well, I think when it comes to baseball, one of the more enjoyable aspects of baseball is when they show guys getting upset in the dugout. Like, Ray, it's really fun to watch guys go crazy and like just throw jars of double bubble everywhere. Or, who was it? David Ortiz took the baseball bat to the bullpen phone. Like, that was awesome. Like, if you asked me to come up with a David Ortiz highlight for this Hall of Fame career, it would probably be on the microphone at Fenway when he dropped the F-bomb. It would probably be, was it the home run? Who was the outfielder was it Torrey Hunter caught that ball in the playoffs and flipped over the wall? And it was a home run for David Ortiz. Okay, that would be a moment. David Ortiz killing the Cardinals in, what year was that? 2004. He just murdered, or maybe it was like 2012, I guess by then. Just destroyed them. But Ray, the other moment would be David Ortiz going absolutely ballistic on a phone booth or a telephone. I get it, Ray. It's like, you shouldn't be punching your locker, but I love these moments. I like to see the violence in the dugout or in the locker room. Watching people lose their cool is fascinating to me. It's quite fun to watch people go crazy. When you get to be a passive viewer of that, those are memories, Ray. Those are the things that stick with me. So I have no problem with people getting angry, punching things, throwing things, crushing things. You talk about hurting your team, or hurting what you need, your right hand. Ray, a few weeks ago, I'm at a concert on a Sunday night. I got to do the show with you on Monday morning. It didn't stop me from screaming at the show. I was yelling like an idiot. I was ruining my voice. My wife even looked at me and said, "You got a show tomorrow." I said, "I don't care."
Did she really do that?
Yeah, she did kind of wonder, is her voice going to hold up?
Okay.
I said, "Well, honey, I've been doing this for 30 years or so. Yeah, it's going to hold up. Don't worry." And I was fine. We even did like 100 minutes the next morning.
Yeah, right? I get that a lot too.
Y'all do it.
My gal's like, "Ray, your voice," because she's like, "I talk today, my voice." I'm like, "I'm such a blabbermouth. I can talk all day." Yeah, I'm trained.
Yeah, I mean, and like the thing, we love watching Tom Brady kick the hell out of his Microsoft Surface.
Yeah, but he's smashing it to the ground or whatever. You're throwing a bucket of bubble gum or whatever. You're not punching a locker and breaking your hand. There is a difference too. Like, I mean, you could throw the bucket and tear your UCL or something. I think random things can happen, but it's like actively going in there and socking the wall with your hand when you're a pitcher is just unbelievably stupid.
We've all allowed a hit to our brother in the postseason. We all don't act like that. You're right. You're totally right. My appetizer today is I'm trying to figure out why Odell Beckham matters.
Good call.
Like, what in the hell's going on here? Like, I guess Odell Beckham, who is still rehabbing, by the way, like if he signed today, he wouldn't even be able to play for like 2 months. But there's now things circulating like teams want to add Odell Beckham, which yesterday Sean McVay was asked about something. Oh, Odell Beckham says you guys lowballed him with an offer to come back to the Rams. And McVay said, oh, no, we'll keep the negotiations open. Who cares? Like, Odell Beckham is the only guy that is enjoying this right now. Like, you got all these people talking about Odell Beckham. He's coming off torn ACL. He's not even healthy yet. Are people really going to sign this guy and then plug him into their lineup in December? And what I hear, Ray, is, oh, look at what he did last season for the Rams. Okay, everybody who's thinking that, everybody who's thinking, man, look at what Odell Beckham did for the Rams last season. Ask yourself, what did he do? Do you know? Do you know what Odell Beckham actually did for the Rams?
He helped the Rams. He helped
for
the Rams a lot with what he did.
Did he?
But
did he?
Him personally, to your point.
Yeah? You think he helped the Rams a lot?
I think he helped the Rams with stretching the field and all that. Yeah, I think he helped their offense.
He averaged less than 40 yards receiving per game.
Yep.
He averaged less than 4 catches per game. Mm-hmm. Am I missing something here, Ray?
No.
Is that Ben Skoranek there, or is that Odell Beckham? 3.5 catches for 38 yards. Oh, he drew coverage. Oh, he opened up the Cooper Kupp was fine without Odell Beckham, people. Cooper Kupp didn't need Odell Beckham. What did Odell Beckham change when he got to the Rams? You're not even looking at the team. They were fine without him. This is silly, Ray. He's coming off a torn ACL. The dude's 30 years old. Do people realize he has played, I think it's like 53 of the last 85 possible games?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Well, no.
They had Robert Woods. They didn't have Robert Woods. He was hurt.
I got multiple should I add Odell Beckham questions yesterday. And to your point, 2018 was the last time he was any good, really. I guess 2019. Okay. But 2018, 6 catches. 2019, 5 catches. 2020, 21, 3 catches. 2018, 88 yards. 2019, 65 yards. 2020, 45 yards. 2021, 38 yards. His production is gone in the toilet. And to your point, the numbers he produced for Ben Skoranek.
So what people are now telling me is, look at what he did for the Rams because he drew attention. Wow. That's why we're going to give Odell Beckham money.
But that has nothing to do with adding him in the fantasy
We're not
game.
going to add Odell Beckham to make plays. We're not going to add him to make catches, to get 3.5 catches, 38 yards. That changed the Rams. That's what I'm hearing, Ray.
But even if that's true.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson, Ray, has changed the Rams. Look at all the attention that Allen Robinson has drawn, and Cooper Kupp is racking up 14 catches. Did you see it 2 weeks ago, Ray? Cooper Kupp had his best reception game ever. You know why? Because Allen Robinson is stealing attention. Doesn't that sound like a really idiotic argument?
No, I think that.
No, wait. Doesn't that sound really stupid for me to say that? Like, Cooper Kupp had his best receiving game ever. And I say it's because Allen Robinson drew attention. Everybody knows that's stupid. Mm-hmm. Why are you allowed to say Cooper Kupp did what he did last year? The Rams did what they did last year because Odell Beckham drew attention. I think that is dumb. That it's not supported by the numbers. That offense was good before Odell Beckham. That offense is fine without Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham doesn't change this offense. You add Odell Beckham on December 15th, that's not changing this offense. Into the playoffs, the last 3 weeks, it ain't helping the Rams offense.
It ultimately, whether it is or isn't, is really irrelevant if we're talking the fantasy game, because no one is talking about Odell. They shouldn't be. They are, but they shouldn't be. Talking about Odell Beckham being a thing in fantasy. So whether he does A or B for an offense is a discussion, but why are we adding Odell Beckham now in the fantasy game? Why are we talking about adding Odell? Why? So he can catch 4 balls for 40 yards, to your point? It's not, and no matter where he goes, he's an old player like Kyle talked about. He's had multiple surgeries. He's got the off-the-field problems. Let's not forget that. We've talked about that, you and I, an awful lot. You know, dude's talking to walls, punching walls, talking to kicking nets. He's got problems, okay? He hasn't produced in years. And now he's an old guy coming off another injury. So, yeah, he is irrelevant. Could he have a game at the end of the – who knows, right? But he is irrelevant. If you're adding him right now, you're just making a mistake.
Well, and people say, well, isn't he better than Allen Robinson? No, he isn't, because you know what? Allen Robinson can play on Sunday. Odell Beckham's coming off a torn ACL. He's like, what do you guess, Ray? At least 8 weeks away.
Yeah,
from being on a
there was
football
been a lot of
field?
uncertainty when and if he would be available. Certainly in the double digit weeks as a best case scenario. So yeah, and it might be if he's coming back fantasy playoffs. Let's say he's back in week 14, 15. You don't play him? Hell no, you're not going to play him. So he's
Yeah.
irrelevant.
I think Squirrel Bob 335 nailed it. OBJ isn't signing with anybody until week 10. He's going to be with whoever the favorite is for the Super Bowl. You've nailed it. It's all about OBJ. This whole thing. Right? It's all about Odell Beckham. If the team happens to win with him, great. But it's just like all Odell Beckham.
Mhm.
And he gets so much credit for the Rams winning the Super Bowl last year, and I am confounded by it. Like, people just have this belief that Odell Beckham is Jerry Rice, and there's none of that. Odell Beckham was really awesome for like 3.5 years.
Mhm.
Odell Beckham has not been awesome, nor even a difference maker. We can all argue what he is, but I'm looking at the stats.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm looking at the stats. He hasn't been a difference maker for 4 years.
Mhm.
He's now 30. He's coming off an ACL. The earliest he's going to be back is like week 14, week 15. I don't understand the love affair with Odell Beckham. Don't get it, Ray.
I'm in agreement with you on that.
But he will draw a lot of attention because that's what he does. He's an attention whore. So you kind of got it right on Odell Beckham, even if you did. Main course for today. Sorry. It's got to be Commanders Bears. I apologize, but we will get to that. Tyler Beaker is going to join us for his Thursday preview from fantasyguru.com. Elsewhere, in terms of side dishes today, we've got more Week 6 previews. The Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs, that's going to be one of the games we look at. Dallas and Philly will be one of the games we look at. We have a ton of injury news, like way too much. It's a lot. So we'll probably spend like a whole segment on injury news because it is a mess right now. And it doesn't matter the position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, hell, even place kicker. They are all messy at this moment. So that is coming your way leading up to 3 o'clock. Ray, what about a bet du jour today on Lunch Money?
Yeah, since we're going to be talking a lot of the Commanders Potatoes game, my bet du jour is Carson Wentz minus 115 to go over 220 and a half passing yards. Problems or not, that's a low number. I'm very confident that he'll get there. Chicago's middle of the road in pass defense. DVOA says it. The numbers say it. 3 of the last 4 guys against the Bears have gone over 230. The only one that didn't was Daniel Jones. Carson Wentz does a lot of things well. He does a lot of things poorly, but he will throw the ball 39 times, right? And he'll throw for more than 220 and a half yards. I'm
pretty anti-Wentz in this game. I think, Ray, by the end of tonight, people are asking for Taylor Heineke to be the QB. I don't think Wentz has a good game tonight. They'll probably fire Ron Rivera, and they'll turn to Taylor Heineke. I mean, do people forget, Ray? Heineke was 7-8.
He was solid.
Last season.
He was solid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think there is a dramatic difference at this moment between Carson Wentz and what Taylor Heineke could give you?
I don't think there's a dramatic difference. I think there is a difference. I would still say there is a difference with Wentz, but dramatic? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think they're pretty comparable. I do personally. I don't like that bet du jour, Ray, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm not in support of it. So, but you probably won't like this one. Maybe you will. I don't know. It's also from the Thursday night game. Chicago to punt on their first drive. I feel okay about that.
That's not a bad, yeah.
Now, obviously, Vegas feels very good about it too. Minus 150 on that number. So the bet du jour is something we feel good about. We don't always promise profit. Like, that one's tough to profit on. Raise is easier to profit on. But you can get the Bears to punt on the first drive of the game at minus 150. So that's where I'm going. Dessert today. This will be a good one if I ever shut up and let us get to dessert before the end of the show. If you think you are a person that holds grudges, or maybe you think Ray Flowers holds grudges. I mean, he's talking about a cop who's chased him down from 20 years ago. Like, let it go, Ray. Anyway, people hold grudges, but we have an example of somebody who's probably outgrudging even the grudgiest of grudgy people. There's a good one. And it's, I think it was like, it maybe came out a week or 2 ago. I just stumbled upon it today. I found it quite funny. So we'll talk about holding grudges. Drink special today. What are you handling in your right hand, Ray?
Yep. I got a Pilsner today. It's a Velton's Pilsner. I can't even speak. Pilsner like I've been drinking it. It's a kind of cool can. It's green. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's like rivets kind of in the side. You can see it there on the silver. Like there's like a rivety kind of pattern on it. It's just a Pilsner. Like it's a cool looking can. Nothing fancy. Just a, not forgettable, but just a decent beer. I know you're always interested, Kyle. It's 4.8%.
Let me guess. Or did you say it?
I already did, but you may not have heard it.
Oh, I didn't hear it because I was yelling on this. And 4.4.
4.8.
4.8. Okay, pretty good for a pill.
There's a better view of the rivet looking thing.
Yeah.
So it's it's a decent beer. Nothing fancy, but it works.
Yeah, man, Ray keeps pulling out these beer cans. Look at this guy. It's like I think Ray is really just like dumpster diving every day after the show.
Going to my neighbor's house as an alcoholic.
Yeah, going through the neighbor's recycling bin, like just finding any can. For me, Ray, I always like to tie in the Thursday drink with wherever the game is being played at. I don't think we've had this. Maybe we have had. I mean, we're talking about drinks every day. But for those who don't know, it is believed. Now, I know everybody argues about these things, but it is believed that the old fashioned was first created in Chicago. I think there's a newspaper account. I was reading it today. There's a newspaper account of it for like 1803. So that's pretty early. So, Ray, in honor of the game being played tonight in the Windy City, we will have an old fashioned, which is actually something when I'm at a bar, Ray, I will drink an old fashioned. I enjoy an old fashioned. I kind of lean more towards the whiskey over the bourbon style. I think rye whiskey is kind of the way I lean. I don't mind the bourbon, but the sugar cube's mandatory. The bitters are mandatory. The orange peel is mandatory. And Ray, also, since we now live in a day and age where we get to be spoiled by the type of ice that we have in our drink.
Okay.
You got to have the big block square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
think our forefathers are embarrassed that we have all these ice choices in 2022.
Well, I've read a lot about rum and the history of rum because, tiki and everything like that. And it's really interesting because we know the alcohol's been around for a long time, but it used to taste like ass. Like there was very few places where it actually tasted good. So but
it made you feel like a god.
Yes. But there was a lot of mixing involved. There was a lot of let's throw water in it. Let's just because it did not taste well on its own. So I assume they would just be stoked to have an ice cube. Though if it was in the olden days, they'd probably want smaller ice cubes because they'd want them to melt faster than the bigger ones do today.
Now here's another critical question, Ray. And since we're learning a lot about you today,
true.
Type of ice you prefer. Let's say you're getting a soft drink or something that needs ice, water even. Crushed ice, big block cubes, maybe what do you call those, like slender half moons? Those kind of ice, like the stuff your refrigerator makes. What kind of ice do you prefer?
By the way, we've got the like racquetball size. I got a couple Death Stars. Those are what I use, Kyle. The rubber molds, of course.
Like, do you have like a Darth Vader ice machine? Like,
I don't.
Out
I probably should.
Black helmet? No.
Now there is a Darth Vader toaster somewhere in storage. Puts a space on the toast.
I've seen that. Someone put it online and they said, "Oh my God, Jesus is on my toaster." And you're like, no, it's just Darth Vader.
It's just Vader. Yeah. I think the answer to your question depends upon what I'm drinking. If I'm having a tiki drink, it has to be crushed ice. Has to be. If I'm drinking a soda, drinking a water, something on day to day, I prefer just regular ice cubes. And if I am doing a whiskey or something like that, I will try to use the big ice cube. So I think I vary it based upon what I'm drinking.
Well, you and I are fairly similar on this. I will say probably one of my favorite ice cube, and it's pretty well with like a fountain soda. Have you ever seen like the barrel shape? They're kind of like crushed ice, but they got a little more substance to them. They're more barrel shaped.
Yeah, I know.
I think I would probably, and they're semi-crushed, but I think that's the style I'm going with. Not totally crushed,
right? But
barrel style. I don't even know if barrel style ice cube is a term, but I'm creating it here. I know what you mean. Okay, old fashioned for me. What? Veltons?
Yeah, Veltons.
Veltons. Yeah, I don't know if I'm a big fan of that name, but anyway.
Can's all right, though.
Yeah, Snitlev, if you read it backwards.
Yeah, there you go.
I like Snitlev better than Veltons. Snitlev. That sounds like a man's beer.
Right.
Okay, we'll take a breather here. When we come back, let's jump into the games for week 6, starting with the Bears and Commanders. We got injuries too. Stay with us in the chat room. If you've got questions, we'll do our best to kind of sneak a few answers in. It is Lunch Money, and it is right here on a Thursday on the Bettor Sports Network.
It's Moose and Keith with Mark Malusis and Keith Irizarry.
Moose and Keith with you. Let's welcome aboard right now, Iron Eagle.
One of the great stories that I have from doing notes on a plane, and you always get people looking over. They see color-coded uniform numbers, names, height, weight, age, background, hometown. And I had a woman sitting next to me on a flight, and I'm doing my notes, and she's kind of giving the look, then looking, and I can tell she's looking. And then finally, she'll say, so what is it that you do? Well, what do you think I do? I said, are you a wedding planner? I said, yes. I said, I have to put Rob Gronkowski at Tom Brady's table. I said, you know what? You're not correct, but it's the best answer I've ever heard.
That's great.
Corey Nando and Friends, presented by Mayo Media.
Fantasy life, fantasy executive. It's going to be a football life. The fantasy executive is probably going to be the best football life ever.
Who will be the guest? Everyone who was on yesterday, basically.
Yeah, everybody that's on yesterday will be the guest. Scott Ingram, you know what I'm saying? Adam Rodas. Yeah, everybody, those people. Because what Nando, obviously you'll be there. You know what I'm saying? We'll go to the GST and shoot some scenes. You know what I'm saying?
That'd be nice.
We'll shoot some scenes in Midtown Manhattan. Antonio Brown can be on my football life,
That'd
right?
be nice.
Because that's a big part of my come up as a fantasy analyst. Everybody, the football life, the fantasy executive is going to be for the people. When they do the football life on the fantasy executive, I'm going to be hands on.
Good. Yeah. You talking to you.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Cheetos or Doritos?
I truly love both. Cool Ranch Doritos.
Wow.
I grew up on Cheetos. I was a big Chester Cheetah guy.
Oh, nice.
But Ray, as I have aged into adulthood, I've moved away from the fun that is the Cheeto, and I've gone to the more cosmopolitan Cool Ranch Dorito chip. So I'm probably a Cool Ranch guy. How about you?
I would go Doritos. I don't like Cool Ranch. The traditional, original, regular, whatever it is really good. But my favorite's actually the sweet chili, the purple bag. Oh, delicious. It's fantastic.
Yeah. The one that sucks, and I think we can all agree on this one, taco.
Yeah.
I know a lot of things, and I'm perfect at a lot of things. My Dorito trivia is a little shaky.
Okay.
A little shaky. But I think taco is the first flavor.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Heather and Josh are giving us some nice Chicago blues today here. Getting set for what we hope is some Chicago fireworks. Hey, we can hope. Bears hosting the Washington Commanders tonight. We welcome you back to Lunch Money. Let's break it down between Washington and Chicago. Before I dig into this game, Ray, I am going to warn you as a friend. Okay, this is me being a friend to you. I'm letting you know this well before kickoff.
All right.
There is a graphic warning associated with this game. The uniform combo, I read about it. I have not seen it.
Okay.
But I am told, Ray, tonight the Bears will have not only orange uniform tops, but they will have orange helmets. We are going orange and orange up top for the Bears tonight. So graphic content coming your way on a Thursday evening.
I appreciate the warning. I'll have my sunglasses handy. I will be mentally prepared to deal with what sounds like a pretty poor combination of colors and uniform parts.
And they're playing a team whose old nickname offended a lot of people, and rightfully so. But Ray, if we were ranking things on the level of being offended, I think this uniform might be worse. Like, if I were the NFL, I would reprimand the Bears, fine Virginia McCaskey at least, $2 million of pearls that she will be wearing to the game tonight if they're going to go through with these uniforms. I'm expecting it to be very, very ugly tonight.
I'm not anti-orange. Halloween is one of my favorite times of year. I don't think copious amounts of orange on uniforms is necessarily good. And again, I'm a Giants fan. When I was a kid, they had the orange tops. Okay, so, but they didn't wear orange hats.
Yeah.
They wore black hat. Yeah, I don't like the orange on orange. That does not sound good to me.
Okay, so that's probably the biggest news in this game. The other news is that Washington's actually favored. Like, I don't really get it. And really, this is a pick'em game. Commanders are favored by a point. But if you look at the money line, both sides are minus 110. So Vegas, I don't know if Vegas is even interested in this game. Probably not. I guess it can make them some money, so they would be. But really, Ray, this is a pick'em. And these are two teams that, sure, Ray, there are positives, but it's mostly kind of negative with these two squads right now. I was looking at numbers. I didn't realize this. The Commanders have forced one turnover this year. One.
It's not good.
Giving up 26 points a game. And I bring that up, Ray, because what we saw last week in Minnesota, I don't know if it's the best we've seen of Justin Fields in his career. I'm trying to think last season if there was a better game. But last week, he completed 70% of his passes. It was over 200 yards. He was using his legs, got the Bears back into that game against the Vikings. It wasn't a full 4 quarters. It was kind of, third and fourth quarter action for Fields. But that was a step in the right direction. I really hope there's a step in the right direction tonight. I don't really feel this Washington defense. I'm not fearing it. This should be a team, Ray. I don't expect them to blow up and destroy the Commanders. But I think Justin Fields should kind of keep that move upwards, that track upwards, continuing from last weekend.
Yeah, he played a solid game. And, I think that as long as he can limit the mistakes, which tend to occur when he's, scrambling around, this offense can be moderately good, moderately effective. I don't know how to say it. They can be average. I think that's just the best case scenario because they can run the ball. Mm-hmm. I think they can do enough through the air if they allow Fields to do his thing. And to your point, I think the Commanders are allowing more than 2 touchdown passes a game. Like, this is a defense. It's not, we talked about it. They're not stopping opponents. They're really missing Young on the defensive line, obviously. So, if Fields can, get some time, which is when the problems occur when he doesn't have the time, right? If he can get some time, I think that we might be seeing a decent effort from him tonight. I agree with you.
Yeah, and you look at the Washington side, I kind of worry more about them tonight, Ray. Like, they're not going to have Logan Thomas. Mm-hmm. Jahan Dotson is out. Mm-hmm. Wentz is going to play, but he does have a shoulder issue. I mentioned, the defense hasn't been all that good. It's not like they bring a strong defense to the table. They're on the road. They've lost 4 in a row. The buzzards are circling. I'm a little surprised Washington's favored in this game. The only thing I really look at and say, well, that could be something tonight for the Commanders, it would be, Ray, the backfield. And this is our second go-around, Robinson versus Gibson, Gibson versus Robinson. If you are looking at those 2 guys tonight in your fantasy lineup, whether you have both of them or one of them, do you feel comfortable with starting either? Like, is it desperation if you're starting either of these guys tonight?
Yeah, that's my player to watch is Brian Robinson for this very, very point. If I had to choose Robinson or Gibson, I would choose Robinson. Do I feel confident in that? I really don't. And I don't think anyone should because, last week Robinson was back and he was 3rd on the chart in routes run and snaps. His first game back. That being said, he only played 2 fewer snaps than Gibson. So they were almost on the field just as much. He actually handled the ball obviously more. He had 9 touches to only 6 for Gibson. So they were basically on the field the same amount of time. He got more work. We know that the Commanders have an aversion to a guy who's averaged 1,000 scrimmage yards and 10 touchdowns a season his first year. It's really weird.
Like they must have a lot of hidden choices that I don't know about,
right? Like it's very strange.
Gibson.
Very strange. But Robinson's my guy to watch to see what this looks like. Is it a shared backfield with him and J.D. McKissick? Is it all 3 guys again like it was last week? Is Gibson now, basically active, but he's playing 12 snaps and getting 3 touches? Robinson's the guy to start. He's the guy to watch. I want to see how he looks this week. But yeah, it's a messy scenario that I don't feel confident. I'm not saying some people looking at their teams with buys and injuries, you wouldn't be starting Robinson, but given that it's Thursday, I hope you have better options later in the week.
Well, I don't know if you do, because you mentioned those bye weeks. We got 4 stud running backs who are not available. So a lot of people are going to their 3rd or 4th running back, and I kind of think that's where Gibson and Robinson fall. I'm not saying I love the idea of either, but if I had to start Gibson, I actually still feel there's a bit of a role here. Now, it may be only 8 touches. That may be what we get. I will say in the case of Robinson, Ray, he is in a classically good spot. And what I mean by that, everybody wants him to be the guy. The old guy people are kind of out on. If he comes out tonight and has like a good first 3 or 4 touches, he could roll with this thing. Washington's not in a position to say, oh, man, nice job on that last drive, Robinson. Now we got to get Gibson out there. We don't want to I feel Washington will stick with the guy that's showing something. Like I said, they got to get wins. So if a guy comes out and he's performing well, they'll stick with that guy. So Robinson has this opportunity. It's not like we're in a situation where he could excel. Like if Zach Moss came out early and had a good game for the Bills, doesn't mean Devin Singletary is not out there for the very next drive. Whereas in this case, I think we could see Robinson just kind of grab it and run. Now, if he comes out and does the opposite, okay, here we are. We're seeing McKissick. We're seeing Gibson, all these guys. Question in the chat room. I have Herbert, Montgomery, Gibson, and Robinson. Hey, at least one person's going to be watching this game tonight. They've got 4 running backs from the 2 sides. Do you start any of them? And we don't have all the particulars here, Ray. He also has Kareem Hunt and Singletary. This is kind of, I have 6 RB3s on my team.
But again, I'll clarify this. Okay, at least one piece of this. I said this last week. I said it before that, the week before that, the week before that, the week before. David Montgomery is an every start player, period. Every week, David Montgomery starts for you, period. Yeah. It's over. Put him in your lineup. When you have this group of guys, David Montgomery is a borderline running back 1.
Yeah.
Play him
He's in. Herbert's out.
Yes.
The Washington, if I've got Hunt and Singletary, Ray, I'm probably going Hunt and Singletary as my 2 and my 3 there for my running backs.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Like, you look at the matchup tonight, and the Bears are not good against the run. They've given up 8 rushing scores, which is the 3rd most in football. According to Pro Football Focus, they've got the 4th worst run defense in football. This game lines up well for the Commanders to have success on the ground. But to the point we both made, it's not 100% clear how it's going to go. Could it be 20 touches for Robinson? It could. Could it be 9? It could. Yeah. So, yeah, I think with Singletary in the matchup, this week, that matchup, I mean, what's the over-under? I don't have in front of me. 806? It's really high.
It's like 54 maybe.
Yeah, we're anticipating an up-and-down game between the Bills and the Chiefs, of course. Hunt always gets 10 carries. Always gets 3 catches. Like the ball, what you're getting with Hunt in terms of workload. As much as I'd want to play Robinson, I would play those other 2 guys ahead of him.
Yeah, here's another one. Got to have 3 of these guys. Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, Brian Robinson, Melvin Gordon, Eno Benjamin.
Well, is that Brian Robinson or is that James Robinson?
It's Brian Robinson.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian Robinson. And Ray, this is the classic case of Thursday screwing up everything.
Absolutely.
Because we don't know Jonathan Taylor nor Eno Benjamin right now. We just don't have a good read. I expect Taylor to play.
I do too.
That's the way it's trending. So I'm going to answer this like, hey, I'm planning on Taylor playing. And for me, Ray, Najee, Taylor. If there's no Connor, I'm going Benjamin. If there's a Connor, I'm going Melvin Gordon. For me, Brian Robinson, I'd just bench him for tonight.
Yeah, I think we got enough options here. I would do the same thing, and I would have Gordon be that 3rd guy behind Harris and Taylor. But again, it's tough, like you said, and this, we have a triple scenario here going on. We don't quite know what the Commanders are going to do. We don't quite know the health of Taylor. We don't quite know the health, obviously, of Connor with the Cardinals, but you laid it out the way I would lay it out right now.
Okay, thanks for those questions there in the chat room. We'll continue to check in on those as we think we can fit them in and kind of sneak them into the discussion. You mentioned Robinson was your guy to watch. Same guy for me, and obviously we tackled that situation. My guy to fade it's really getting tough with Terry McLaurin, Ray. I think a lot of people still have to start him, But there might be situations out there, especially in 2 receiver leagues,
Right.
where he's on your bench. And even if you had a flex, Ray, it has been so quiet, and the issues they've had pass blocking, the issues Wentz has had just throwing the football, making the right decisions. Again, I'm pretty down on the Commanders entering tonight, and I'm pretty down on Wentz. So I'm kind of planning for this to be an ugly passing game. Thus, I'm fading Terry McLaurin.
I think that in my world, if I had Terry McLaurin, he starts every week, but I'm in 14-team leagues with 3 wide receivers, so it's not even a question. He starts every week. To your point, if you're in a 10-team league starting 2 wide receivers, I get it. And while there have been previous opportunities for McLaurin where he should have, and he went, 4 catches for 66 yards. Okay, like he's not a bad start. There's always going to be enough volume, and I think enough production there. There's always going to be enough that he'll be usable. But to your point, there could be scenarios where he's certainly a 3 for some. Maybe he's a 4 for others.
Who's your fade in this game?
Yeah, and we talked about it, and so we kind of already hinted at it, but we spent a long time with the discussion. It's Gibson. I think it's fairly obvious, but I just wanted to put it out there. Gibson is my fade. Robinson is my preferred play, but I would try, as we've discussed, to not play either guy. I mean, this is really, and it depends because we've got the bye weeks and there's injury. I get it, but to me, Robinson really is a flex option. Like, I do not think he's a good RB2. And I know some people are looking at him like that.
In terms of my favorite prop, Ray, for the bet du jour, you had Wentz over. Was it 229 and a half?
220 and a half.
Okay, 220 and a half. My favorite prop, and this is usually how you end up in the poorhouse, betting on Justin Fields and the Bears. But Ray, I'm going to say Fields with more passing yardage than Carson Wentz. And you get plus 200 on that. This speaks more to Wentz. Like, gosh, I may be the most negative guy on Wentz. I actually own him in a league. Not starting him, but I'm worried that it gets it's going to be ugly for all of us. I don't see either team scoring like 30 points, but I think it's going to be uglier for Washington than Chicago. I think both QBs aren't going to really excel passing. Like, if I win this bet, Ray, I wouldn't be surprised if I win it 198 to 188.
Right.
Both guys just blah, whatever. But it's plus 200 on the odds. So maybe I'll buy what Justin Fields was selling last week against the Vikings and see it carry over 4 days later against the Commanders. What's the prop that you like for this game?
Going back to Carson Wentz, Kyle. Chicago has the worst pass rush in football, according to Pro Football Focus. We know what Carson Wentz's problem is. He's been under constant pressure, and he makes bad decisions when that occurs. If, and it seems like on paper, this if is possible, if he gets a moderate amount of time to pass tonight, I'm confident that he can be successful, which is why I talked about the prop bet for the 220 and a half yards. I'm also taking the 1.5 passing touchdowns. That one's a plus 135. So he's going to throw his 2 touchdown passes tonight. It's plus 135. It may be 248 and 2. Like, I'm not predicting some massive effort to Kyle's point, but I think he gets to both of those numbers this evening.
Who in the hell are those 2 touchdown passes going to, Ray? Do tell. I need to know.
McLaurin and Bates. I don't know.
Okay. There's the call. Whatever. I don't see 2 either. I don't know. Watchability. I've actually, and man, I may regret this come 9:30 p.m. tonight, but I'm going to say a 3 between the Commanders and the Bears. I feel there are storylines to follow here. Like, the game itself may be kind of ugly. And I will say, even last week, that Colts-Broncos game, we're remembering it for all the wrong reasons. But I felt that was like an entertaining game to watch, as a car crash is an entertaining thing to watch. It's like you can't turn your eyes off it. Like, how bad can this get for Matt Ryan? How bad can this get for Russell Wilson? Both these teams are desperate. Tonight, I don't know about desperation for these 2 teams because both teams aren't going to make the playoffs. But there's a lot on the line. Like I said, Rod Rivera's on thin ice. I think Carson Wentz is on thin ice. You got a backfield that's up in the air. That's all on the Washington side. Plus, they've got Dotson out and Logan Thomas out. Like, I'm worried about this offense. And on the Bears side, we'll see. Maybe Justin Fields can keep the momentum rolling. So I'm going with a 3 for this one, right?
I did a rare thing for myself. I went with the decimal. I went 2.5. I split it
You're
right down the
finally
middle.
embracing the decimal, Ray. Good to
Yeah,
see.
but isn't it appropriate for this game, which is right down the middle? Like, this game could be okay, it could be awful. I don't think there's much it's gonna be great, right? It's kinda so 2.5 might be too much, but again, we talked so much about the backfield scenario with the Commanders, and Justin Fields is trending a little bit, and there's opportunity. So, yeah, I go 2.5 on it.
Got a question in the chat. PPR, Terry McLaurin
Yes,
or Alec Pierce?
McLaurin.
Okay.
I
I'd go
mean
McLaurin too. Pierce, I got to see a little bit more than just that one game we saw last Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, Pierce if he's on the waiver wire, he shouldn't be. Like, he's certainly trending in the right direction. Doolin's down with injury now too, which helps as well. I think Pierce I think he's a 4 this week. I think McLaurin's a bottom 2, excuse me, high 3. So I think they're on different tiers. So for me, I would be going with McLaurin, but Pierce is an ascending player that I want on a roster.
And we also got a question, thoughts on Curtis Samuel. I'll tell you this. I own Curtis Samuel in a 16-teamer. He starts every week, every single week. And it's not because I think, matchups this, matchup that. That's not really how it works with Curtis Samuel. What you're hoping is that the Commanders just realize, hey, we got to get the ball in the hands of Curtis Samuel. And they've done a pretty good job of that this year. I think tonight, Ray, certainly with Dotson, Thomas, like these guys out, kind of the backfield, like Curtis Samuel's not, I'm not going to say he's a good start. I'm not going to say that, but I think this will be a decent start because I think he should get the ball in his hands a pretty good amount. We're not seeing much of anything from McLaurin. We have seen more of Curtis Samuel probably than any other guy on the football field. Like, they're fading on Gibson. We've seen one game of Robinson. Thomas is hurt. Dotson is hurt. McLaurin's invisible. Like, Samuel, Ray, has maybe been the most consistent piece they have on offense. It's not a great piece, but it's the most consistent piece they have on offense.
Yeah, De'Ami Brown's got a groin issue. I think the expectation he's going to play, but he's dealing with that too. So, yeah, I mean, Curtis Samuel's caught 6 passes in 4 or 5 games. Like, that's fantastic. Is he going 28 points tonight? Is he going nuclear? It's hard to see that. But is he a usable piece? Is he a wide receiver? I would say right at the bottom of 2, right at the top of 3. I think the way the game lines up, I'm a fan of, Wentz. I'd have him like at 26 at wide receiver. So, yeah, I'd be starting him this week with not confidence, but feeling really good about it.
8:20 Eastern for the kickoff from Soldier Field, which actually, for those who don't know, maybe in the next 5 years, they're leaving Soldier Field. They might even leave Chicago. I think Arlington Heights is kind of where the Bears are threatening that evil Virginia McCaskey. She will never stop until she gets everything that she wants. I didn't think I'd wake up this morning and pick on Virginia McCaskey.
Yeah, right? That's kind of random, but okay.
No one ever talks about the wonderful lady, so I want to give her a little pub today. We got more coming up on the Bears and Commanders here in about a half hour or so. Tyler Beaker, a fantasy guru, we visit with him each and every Thursday, kind of talk about game scripts and how teams want to play. We'll visit with him coming up in the next half hour or so. We'll take a quick breather here. On the flip side, we got injury news, including an update on 2 running backs, Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Taylor, a couple of big names. Will they or won't they for week number 6? We'll give you the latest on them and many, many others. All coming your way after we visit with Duke in the Den.
Good afternoon, bettors. It's Duke. I'm back and better than ever. Presented to you, as always, by fantasyguru.com. Welcome back to Duke's Den, where I try to make you money one bet at a time. 2-0 yesterday. Of course, hour 1, I gave you our survivor pick, which is trending towards the 49ers on the road against the Falcons. I kind of like the Chargers available. If you got the Packers available, maybe those are some options too. If you're still in it, congratulations. It's been a wild year. Thursday Night Football, I'm going to give you a side and a total here. But first, if you haven't yet, head over to fantasyguru.com. Sign up using code BETTOR, BETTOR, for 20% off any package that you have over there. Of course, you have NFL. You get college football for free when you sign up for that. We have an NBA package that's coming out now. We also have the MVP pass, which gives you NHL for less than the price of just a standalone sport. You get $1 million. You get NHL, MMA, soccer, esports, I think horse racing, like basically everything else that we have for one price over there. MVP package is less than what an individual sport would be. So sign up there using code BETTOR for 20% off. But let's talk about some Thursday Night Football. The Bears host the Commanders. On the surface, not the best Thursday night game. In fact, statistically, it might be the lowest scoring Thursday night game. The total opened at 40.5 for these two nothing offenses. Currently sits between 37.5, 38.5, depending upon what sport book you're looking at. I'm sitting right at 38 on mine and 19 for the first half. If it closes at 37.5 or less, this will be the lowest total for a Thursday night football game since 2018 when the Jags played the Titans. By the way, that closed at 36.5. Titans won 32-9. And that's the thing, man. We have such a low total here, 38. We almost have to lean over, right? But Carson Wentz is dealing with bicep tendon strain suffered in last week's loss against Tennessee. Tom Pelissero confirms it is near his throwing shoulder. So as if we had any other reason to hate on Carson Wentz, he's playing hurt tonight. Look, it could be Washington just trying to build up a guy who's struggling and who their head coach threw under a bus, or maybe he really is just playing through the pain. I'm worried about the Chicago defense getting off the field, though. They literally no one has run less plays through 5 games than the Chicago Bears. Just 266 plays. Seattle Seahawks are next with 277. The Washington Commanders, for all of their struggles, have run 345 plays. And that's the only worry here for me. Who controls this game? And if you look at Chicago's season so far, 2-3, but 2-0 at home with a win over the 49ers as well. They didn't have the possession edge in that game. The Niners had the ball for about 8 more minutes than they did, but the Bears came out on top, and that's where I'm leaning. I'm taking Chicago on the money line, and I'm going over the total. Let's do it. Let's ride together. Chicago on the over. Adios.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
I like it, Duke. I'm taking the Bears on the money line. I don't know about that over. Ray, what do you think about that over? Duke was talking about 38. I'm seeing 38 right now. I'm going the over or the under there.
I'm going to take the over on that. Tight, but just over that.
Just over. Might still go the under. I might take that under there. Bears to win, though. Got more coming your way on Thursday night football. Again, Tyler Beaker is set to join us, but let's get into some injury updates, starting with a big one, Ray. Jonathan Taylor didn't play last Thursday. What's it looking like this week?
Looks like he's got a good chance to play this week. He was back at practice today. Obviously, it's still early in the week per se, but he hasn't missed practice until last week ever. Toe ankle issue now, right? But it does seem like he's trending in the right direction. There hasn't been a lot of real concern that this was a long-term issue. In fact, there was obviously the belief that there was a chance he could play last week. So looking like we're feeling semi-good about his ability to play this week for the Colts.
Probably feeling pretty good about a couple of Miami guys, too. Tyreek Hill was back at practice yesterday. Raheem Mostert back at practice today. So both those guys look to be in the clear. Chargers, Ray, aren't giving us anything on Keenan Allen. It's day-to-day, and I think last week he was day-to-day, but we've now gone 3 weeks without even practicing. I find it almost doubtful for Keenan Allen this weekend at this point.
I mean, here, I'll say it this way. When he plays, you play him, right?
Problem is it's a Monday night game this week.
And that was the thing. Yeah, it's like, so, it's possible we get a declaration on Friday. It's possible. It's probably unlikely. So, are you going to go the Josh Palmer route? Are you going to play that game? Because people have been playing that game. It's been disappointing, right? And so I don't know if you want to do that. Are you going to go, with if you have obviously Judy or Sutton, you play them, but are we going third wide receiver? So it's probably looking like another week of no Keenan Allen in the fantasy game.
Looks like Aaron Rodgers, I guess, had to cancel his appointment with the shopping mall shaman because Ray, his thumb hurts now. Now we're told he missed practice yesterday. We're told not to be concerned at all, which is fine, Ray, except he's got to throw a football. I guess it's good enough to play through. And at this point, are people benching Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. I guess everybody has different situations, but there might be some out there, Ray, where it's do I go with Aaron Rodgers or do I go with Kirk Cousins? Mm-hmm. Do I go with Aaron Rodgers or do I go with Justin Fields? Do I go with maybe Aaron Rodgers or do I go with Tom Brady? So, there could be a lot of these either ors with Rodgers. I wonder, does this thumb push you in one direction or another for those 50-50 calls at quarterback?
Yeah, it looked like he injured it right at the end of the game last week. He was shaking it after that final throw. At this point in time, I think it's all drama with that guy personally. So I think he plays. I think he's fine. Is he a good play? That is debatable. Is he a strong play? Same debate. But I would not be benching him. I don't think if it's a 50-50 that I would use this as a reason not to do it.
Yeah, I see somebody in our room used they're going Brady over Rodgers, which I have no problem with that call.
No problem with that either. I do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so depending on who that other quarterback choice, it might be worth looking at. Saints, Ray, we got a lot of issues with this team. Man, oh man. Good news, Jameis Winston limited, so a chance. Taysom Hill's limited. So, I think he's going to be fine. It's a rib injury. He should be able to play. But the big news, Ray, is 3 wide receivers all missing practice yesterday. Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave. Even if Winston's back, my God, what do you have to throw to? Maybe it's going to be a second straight week of Taysom Hill.
Yeah, it's messy, to say the least. The Olave thing, we can all talk about what we think. He had a concussion last week. He was unconscious. When he hit the ground, he was out. That's not a minor thing. We all saw it. His arms went dead. With the way the NFL is playing this, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater's not going to play, and he walked off the field totally fine, like almost immediately. So I'm really concerned about Olave. Obviously, the Michael Thomas thing, he's not playing if Jameis Winston doesn't play. So at least Winston seems like he's on track to play, which gives us a chance to get Michael Thomas. But who knows there? Jarvis Landry was never really supposed to be that hurt. Now he's missing games. And so it's messy. It is really messy. And it's too early in the week to be starting any of these guys, Winston, Thomas, Landry, or Olave. It's too early to be thinking about starting them. You have to have plans in place for all 4 of those guys. It's too early in the week to feel confident about any of them.
Yeah, they've got Cincinnati coming to town. That Bengals defense, depending on how this breaks with the injury news, maybe not a bad call to stream defensively. I don't love the situation, but if you're really desperate, that might be one to look at. Other DNPs, Rashad Bateman, James Conner, Julio Jones, who again missed today. So the Julio Jones thing is, my gosh, I don't think he's playing. T. Higgins with an ankle got a DNP. Pat Freiermuth, concussion. These are all things to follow, Ray. Today we'll get a practice report probably in the next, 2-3 hours. But some of those names are big ones. Higgins, Connor, Bateman, hell, maybe even Robbie Gould for some of you out there. But I think certainly the Higgins, Connor, and Bateman, those are guys who, if they're not on the practice field today, you really start to doubt their availability for week 6.
At least Gould got hurt making tackles. So, hey, give him credit. He stuck his nose in there a couple of times for the Niners. The Higgins thing, I mean, what happened last week? Like, we hear, he was going to be on a snap count the whole time. Like, where, and I know Jeff Manns went on a tirade about this. Where's the reporting? Like, it's one thing to say the guy re-injured an ankle in game, and the plan was always for him to not play a full complement of snaps. No. So you got to be nervous about that scenario going into this week, especially with where we're at with him right now. The Connor thing, who knows? I mean, who knows? And even if he's active, Benjamin is still a start this week, even if it's a flex option, because Connor, who knows how many snaps he's going to play. The Bateman thing is troubling, because it wasn't supposed to be a big deal and missing a game. And, this is a team that, Duvernay is obviously the guy if Bateman's down, but, it's 4 or 5 targets. It's not a huge volume there. So we need him to be more involved like he was last couple of weeks on the ground. But yeah, all 3 of those guys as of right now are big time question marks.
Yeah, limited yesterday. A couple surprises, Ray. Mac Jones, Damian Harris.
That was...
I mean, all this Ramondre Stevenson excitement. And the situation, Ray, is if we hear he's going to dress, and I still think it's unlikely. I mean, remember 2 weeks ago with Mac Jones, they were still trying to sell us on this idea that Mac Jones could play following the ankle injury. That hasn't happened. Now, he was limited yesterday. In my heart, Ray, neither of these guys are playing, but we have to at least tell people there's a chance. Problem is, if Harris is dressing, it makes it tough to look at either Stevenson or Harris. I would still say I feel better about Stevenson. I mean, I just can't fathom Harris is due like 10 carries. Stevenson would probably still be a play, but it's just that murkiness that, the Patriots, that's all they do is murk things up, mess things up, muck it up, whatever you want to say. They love this game of keeping us guessing, even leading up to kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland just gave up 220 rushing yards to the Chargers or whatever it was. I mean, they got smashed. Cleveland's allowing 5.5 yards a carry, 8 rushing touchdowns. I mean, they got the worst run defense in football. I mean, they're awful. So it's a smash spot for the Patriots, who also want to throw the ball 22 times. I don't think, and here's how I would play this. I don't think that Harris would be active if he can't play, because Harris is not a special teams guy, right? This is not a scenario where he does anything other than just carry the ball on first and second down. So if he's active, I think he gets the ball, right? I think if they don't think he can handle 14 touches, why would they have him active? Because he's a useless player for them then. So I think that's a real big key to watch. But it is a smash spot, and it would be very depressing if it wasn't Stevenson, because everyone thought when the news came out that Harris was hurt, the hamstring's going to be a multi-week injury. There's a possibility, even though it seems unlikely to me as well, that he plays this week.
Yeah, pretty unlikely. It's an early game on Sunday too, so bit of a chancy call for the Patriots there. Saquon Barkley was limited. He's got that shoulder injury. Everybody expects him to play. Dalton Schultz with a knee injury, limited. Dawson Knox, limited. Zay Jones, limited. Now, most of those that we just ran through, outside of Mostert and Taylor, that's all news from yesterday. So we'll get fresh news today, but those are the names you need to follow. Again, it's looking pretty good for Taylor and pretty good for Mostert to get both those guys out there going into the weekend. And I guess since we're bringing up the Dolphins, Ray, we should mention Teddy Bridgewater was at least like on the sideline, kind of doing some things. I still think it's going to be Skylar Thompson, but I guess you can look at that and say, well, is that truly certain who's under center for the Dolphins?
Yeah, it seems like that even if Bridgewater's healthy, he's going to be the backup, which is bizarre to me. I don't quite understand that. That's kind of what we're hearing. The assumption, though, at this point is that it will be Thompson starting for the Miami team this week.
Dak Prescott has a DNP today. He is throwing, though. I think week 6 off the table. Week 7's probably looking pretty good for Dak Prescott, I would think, Ray.
I think that's kind of my read, too. We'll obviously see how it plays out. Plenty of time before then, but take a look at your waiver wire. He could obviously be sitting out there. If you've got the opportunity to add a guy who could be a top 10 quarterback the rest of the way, now's the time to make the move.
And we do have a miracle to report to you. No, Lazarus has not been risen from the dead, but close. There is a minor miracle out in New York, Ray, where it appears that Kadarius Toney has fought through the trials and tribulations of a double hamstring injury. And Ray, we're hearing that Kadarius Toney is at least outside in the elements doing something with trainers.
Right. Not practicing with the team. He's with the trainers. So this could still be a DNP, technically. But yeah, I mean, he's soldiering on. He's fighting the good fight, Kyle. He's out there doing things with trainers. More power to the kid.
Yeah, has his career even started?
No. I've said it's been 5 quarters, a year and a half. It's like, okay.
Oh man, that's a guy, Ray. As soon as he's back, like if he gets in the lineup and goes off on Sunday, like that is a guy I'm immediately trading.
The thing, and we've talked about this. I'm not a Toney guy. I've never been a Toney guy. I don't like the attitude. I don't like the off the field stuff. I don't like But the Giants are nothing at the receiver position. If he's a good stash because the opportunity is wide open for him to get 8 targets a week. Wide open for him to get a couple of carries a week. Can he stay healthy and on the straight and narrow to do that? I have no idea.
Kyle Pitts also practicing for the Atlanta Falcons. So that's 2 straight days for him. So we'd have to expect that he is back and at least available for the Falcons to get involved in their offense. Okay, we'll take a breather here. When we come back on Lunch Money, let's dig into some more Week 6 contests. Yesterday, we didn't get Carolina and the Rams, so we'll get to that today. Also, I think we'll tackle San Francisco, Atlanta, maybe sneak in a little Buffalo, Kansas City. Also still to come, Tyler Beaker with his thoughts on Thursday Night Football. Stick around, more of Lunch Money. Kyle and Ray right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Corey, Nando, and Friends, presented by Mayo Media on Bettor Sports Network.
I'm convinced that Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Babe Ruth is not real. No, it's not. Babe Ruth is not real. We've been hoodwinked. We've been bamboozled We've been led astray. We've been run amok.
Keep going.
Babe Ruth. I don't know the rest. The Babe Ruth is a fictional character. I'm dead serious. Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Y'all are never going to get me to believe that Babe Ruth is real. Babe Ruth is like a baseball Santa Claus. I'm not buying it. After I saw those highlights last night of Babe Ruth, I'm like, there's no way you can tell me that Babe Ruth is a real person. Who do you know? There is nobody under the sound of my voice that has ever seen Babe Ruth play. I asked my pop, you ever seen Babe Ruth play? He's like, no. Nobody's ever seen Babe Ruth play.
I mean, come on.
I'm telling you, Babe Ruth is a fictional character. Even Babe Ruth baseball cards, it looked like it's drawn. Like, Babe Ruth is not real. Y'all trying to pull a fast one. Listen, I don't know who made this up. Maybe it was Phil Rizzuto. Maybe it's the Lenny Melnick. But Babe Ruth is not a real person. There's no way. Everything about Babe Ruth is sketchy. If you didn't go to the games, how do you know that it really happened? Or I listened on the radio. You listen to Ovaltine on the radio. That old school radio was all fiction. Everything on old school radio was fake. But you think Babe Ruth is real?
Look, he lived until 1948. So if you find someone who's like 85 years old, they might have remembered him when he was little, when they were a little teenager.
Babe Ruth was made up by baseball purists. I am certain.
You do that thing where you pause the Babe Ruth video and you zoom in and you zoom in and you zoom in. You see like some artist's autograph like right here.
Yeah,
some digital art right here. Yeah.
Somebody need to investigate this and see if Babe Ruth is a real person. I'm pretty sure Babe Ruth is a fictional character created to make people think that like there was this great jolly old baseball player that drank beers and ate hot dogs and hit 60 home runs. Like the home run record before Babe Ruth was like 14. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
but
now
he figured it out. Like who figured out the dunk, right? Like he's just like,
that's like Dr. J or something, right? Then Dr. J, probably was before Dr. J, but Dr. J made the dunk famous. Babe Ruth made the home run famous, or maybe that was a way to get people to like, we're gonna make baseball America's pastime. But in order to do so, we need somebody who we can make the face of the sport. And they didn't have no face of the sport. So they're like, okay, let's make him a fictional guy that played for the Red Sox and was traded to the Yankees for like tickets to tickets to cats. You know what I'm saying? Like the Red Sox get a Yankees.
You tried to say Les
Miserables. Is there any footage of Babe Ruth in the Red Sox uniform? None. I'm telling you, Babe Ruth is a fictional character.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Good to have you with us on a Thursday afternoon. It is Lunch Money. Corey Nando and friends, of course, coming up after us at 3 o'clock Eastern. We're back here tomorrow, as we always are on a Friday from 12 to 3. We invite you to jump into the chat room if you got any questions for the upcoming week. We'd love to hear them. There is a dynasty trade question in there, Ray. Let's see. Seems there's a lot going. It's 16 teams. He says there's a lot of future cap hits. So we'll just, but we'll do our best to give you the advice. He'd get Darren Waller for 2 years. He's giving up a year of DJ Moore, and then Devin Duvernay, who I'm assuming has 3 or 4 years. He is looking to win. He's got Dawson Knox. So he brings in Darren Waller. He gets rid of DJ Moore and Duvernay. It's not enough to get me really amped, right? Waller's been really quiet, and he got injured the other night. So, you think you hate it with Knox being injured. Ray, you're really just going to another injured tight end. They don't play this weekend, so we don't really have a good read on his status at all. I'll never trade for a guy who I don't know what the situation is with an injury.
Well, I think that I've seen this question a lot, and I'm struggling. I'm trying to make moves. Okay. And then people are making moves for guys on bye this week. If you're struggling, how do you make a trade for guys that are on bye this week? Now, this is different. It's a dynasty league. Okay, I get that. But who's your tight end then? You don't have a tight end this week. Maybe you don't have a tight end next week, right? So, again, with what we see there, I'm going to say no. I mean,
Yeah.
DJ Moore and Devin Duvernay, no. I'm keeping those guys. I would find another answer at the tight end position if you needed one, if you felt like Knox wasn't it for you.
Yeah, keep them coming in the chat room. We got another hour plus, so we can hit on a few of those as we proceed. It is now time for our lunch hunch here on Lunch Money. We do it every day. Kind of a long shot bet that we like coming up. Ray's going to hit us with some hockey. I finally lit a fire under Ray Flowers. He's going to embrace some hockey here, which is really, Ray, I think we're going to get you back into the fold of hockey. I know you've kind of cooled on it. Your Sharks suck now, so it's easy to ignore it. But over the course of the year, we're going to get you fired up for some hockey, I think.
It's tough. And then again, for people that don't know, my first full-time job in this industry was in essence because of my coverage of hockey. And Kyle knows this. I'm still the only person ever on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio to host a hockey show. So it was, I at this point in time, I just don't have the time. I felt like I was falling behind baseball.
I'm kind of struggling now. I was going to say that's quite the tombstone inscription, only guy. But I also want to include the only guy to have an Oakland PD man, hunt them down and mock them and frame them in effect. So I don't know. You got a lot of pieces to make on that tombstone, I think, when it's all said and done.
You're going to have to use 2 font, Kyle, right? Really small.
Yeah. I mean, like Virginia McCaskey, all she's going to have owner of the Bears.
Right.
That's it. Owner of the Bears lived till she was 100. Ray Flowers has too many things to put on the tombstone. First man and the only man to ever host a hockey fantasy show on SiriusXM.
And to be stalked and carry an Easton baseball bat.
By an Oakland police officer.
Who was dirty, who ran a prostitution ring in prison.
Okay, your lunch hunch is hockey. What's the hunt?
And again, this was inspired by you. I think you even mentioned this yesterday as we were rolling through. Was it yesterday we were talking about hockey, the day before?
2 days, yeah.
Yep. We were talking about hockey because we wanted to touch on the season beginning. And, I went and looked at it, and you mentioned Nathan McKinnon. He's a plus 1,000 to win the Hart Trophy, and it's like, I'm taking it. And, any player against the field is always tough. There's always the injuries. He's dealt with them himself. But you look at it, the Avalanche won the Cup last year. McKinnon's won Rookie of the Year. He's won the Lady Byng Award. He's had 88 points in his last 4 seasons of just 65 games played. So if he plays 80 games, we're looking at 100 points. He's been in the top 3 in Hart voting 2 of the last 3 years. I'm taking it. It's plus 1,000, ode to Kyle Elfrink.
I like the odds, Ray. I like the call. The problem he's got, and actually so do some of the other top contenders, is the split vote thing.
Yeah.
Cale Makar is, I would argue, by far the best defenseman in the league. There are other good defensemen, but Cale Makar is, according to everybody who knows this stuff, is pretty generational as a defensive talent. And Ray, he gets Hart Trophy votes. I don't think he'll ever win it. I think the last defender to ever win it was Chris Pronger way back in 2000. And before that, it was Bobby Orr in like 1972. So, Ray, in effect, we've had like 2 defensemen win the Hart Trophy in the last 60 years or so. So McCarr's not going to win it, but he will still enough votes. But then I think about it, like McDavid. Well, Draisaitl takes some of the credit. Austin Matthews is in a pretty good spot, but there's talent around him with Tavares and Marner and all these guys. You almost feel like a dude who would come out of nowhere and have a big season maybe has the best shot at the Hart. But gosh, Florida, they've got talent. Carolina. So the call on plus 1,000 is not bad. Like on the surface, it's like, dude, this guy could easily win the Hart Trophy. But then you start digging through it, and there's like a lot of guys who have a 15% chance here, a 15% chance there. We'll just have to see if anybody kind of blows up this year and has that massive season.
Yeah, and again, it's always, and I'm not a huge fan. This, we've worked together a long time. I'm not a huge fan of the player versus the field thing. It's it's very tough. It's just that I laid out the quick hitting points. There's a lot of reasons to think, put $100 on it. We'll see how it happens. To your point, totally valid though too. I can't discount it at all.
I am going to stay with Thursday Night Football for my lunch hunch, and this comes in at plus 200. So not Ray's plus 1,000, but you don't have to wait 6 months either. So put your money to work tonight. Plus 200, Ray. There will be at least one quarter tonight where neither the Bears nor the Commanders score. Goose eggs for both. Plus 200. I don't hate this. Don't hate this at all. No, field goals piss me off because, when you have Cairo Santos kicking field goals for you, anything's possible.
Money. Yep.
Anything. But Ray at plus 200, I'll take a shot. And I was trying to think, I need to look this up. Last week, I assume we did. Did we have a scoreless quarter? As bad as that game was, let me pull it up here on the app. I can pull it up really quickly. As bad and as awful as that game was, we did have a scoreless quarter, Ray.
Okay.
The Broncos got 3 in the first. Both teams got field goals in the second. Both teams got field goals in the third. And then we got a Colts field goal in the fourth. So even last week in a 12-night final, every quarter had scoring. So maybe I should look for like plus 280 instead of plus 200. But I'm taking that as my lunch hunch tonight.
Again, these things, I've never put it out there, right? I have never done analysis on scoring like this. What are the general odds? I can look at this on the surface and say, I understand it. I can look on the surface and say, yeah, not a problem. I don't know what the validity of the bet is because, again, I have no experience checking that kind of a thing out. But I can certainly look at a scenario where these two teams struggle. One of the problems you might run into is if there's a turnover deep into territory, like you're saying, there's a field goal. That could easily happen given these two teams.
Yeah, it's one of the, and I think also, Ray, we saw what went down just 7 days ago, and it's still in our minds. And we're like, wow, those teams at least have talent. These two teams tonight have, and so you start to think, well, it's going to be even worse. I mean, it's very unlikely to be even worse than last Thursday. Like the odds are 1 in 1,000 to have a worse game this Thursday than we had last Thursday. Kirk Herbstreit's going to bail on this whole NFL thing if he has to sit through another
Start drinking in the middle of the game tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, although we stated this last Friday, there were a lot of great comments from Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. They have reached the point in their careers where they literally can mock the product and they don't have to face any repercussions. They're totally fine. Al Michaels, especially, he can. Last week they even threw a snide comment, Ray, about the hotel.
Oh, I don't remember that.
In Denver. Yeah, they were previewing this game, and Herbstreit said something like, "Oh, I hear the hotels have nice beds in Chicago or something." And then Al Michaels kind of laughed and said, "Oh, yes, they do. Very nice hotel beds," which to me screamed that whatever hotel they stayed at in Denver last week probably had bed bugs.
Yeah, mice or bed bugs. Yep.
Yeah. More coming up on Thursday Night Football. We're about 5-6 minutes away from our friend Tyler Beaker stopping in. Going to give us his thoughts on what's going on between the Commanders and the Bears. Until then, Ray, let's get to some other Week 6 games, starting with Carolina and the LA Rams. I noticed that this number is going down. People are getting on board the PJ Walker train, Ray. Ever since I said PJ Walker would have a top 10 quarterback week this week, top 10 in fantasy, this number has gone from 10.5 to 10, and at last check, Ray, 9.5. By the time we get to Sunday, the Panthers may be a favorite in this PJ Walker runaway train for their game in LA.
The power of Kyle Elfrink.
Yeah, I move lines. I move lines. Millions of dollars, Ray, fall one way or the other based off what I say with my top 10 predictions for each week.
Makes sense to me.
Over under is pitiful, 41. So even at a 9.5 spread, Ray, the implied score is like 25 to 15. So
right.
Maybe PJ Walker, but if PJ Walker has 2 rushing touchdowns, who cares? Yeah. I'm going to walk away with a top 10 finish.
Right.
Favorite prop in this matchup between the Rams and the Panthers. Game is in LA.
Yeah, it's not a get right game for the Rams, but it's a better get it going game for the Rams. And it's an opponent they can beat. It's a home game, like you said. I'm taking the over 2.5 touchdowns at -180. I think they get 3 touchdowns this week, obviously. I think they could push 30 points in this game. I'm not convinced, but given everything we know with Sean McVay, given everything that's happened, I will give them one more week before I bring the full thunder and pain to that organization.
Okay. Yeah, if it doesn't work against Carolina, that is thunder and pain. That's going to be like Schwarzenegger style Flowers next Monday. He's going to go bonkers if the Rams can't get it done. My favorite prop here is kind of playing off Allen Robinson and how much attention he draws away from Cooper Kupp. Ray, Cooper Cup will be over 8.5 catches. Why the hell not? I mean, there is nobody else here. Count me in for 8.5 catches. About the only teams that ever slow down Cooper Cup are teams that play him a lot. Like Arizona's done pretty well. San Francisco's been okay. Arizona, whatever they have, they kind of can slow down Cooper Cup. Nobody else can. So this is over 8.5 catches. It's minus 115, but Cup's just too much a part of this offense. He's just locked in. So I'm taking the over there. My guy to watch, you guessed it, Ray. It's the one and only PJ Walker. Who last year, I remember you had some good words to say about PJ Walker, and I kind of mocked you.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, he was the what league was it? Was it the NWA AFL MVP? Something?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
He was some kind of arena league backyard 50-yard Canadian football league
touch. Yeah.
Well, now, Ray, I'm on board.
Okay.
PJ Walker is the guy to watch. I actually think when it's all said and done, Ray, hold on to this one and bring it back in 3 months. Okay. The most starts this season for the Panthers under center, PJ Walker. Got to have the most starts under center.
Okay.
That's my bet. It begins on Sunday in Los Angeles.
Don't take that bet.
I need 190 yards passing and 50 rushing, 2 total touchdowns.
Yep.
That's all I need.
Oh, that's all. Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's all I need. Who else is going to do that? Baker Mayfield ain't going to do that. Hell no. Sam Darnold can't do that. This PJ Walker's weak. Who's your guy to watch between the Panthers and the Rams?
I'm cheating. My guy to watch is a unit to watch. I want to watch this offensive line of the Rams. You know, they're 31st in pro football pass blocking. They're awful at it. On the other side of things, Carolina's 21st in pass rush. So this is not a group that traditionally, to this point in time, has really gotten after the quarterback. So this should be a game where at least we give Stafford some time to throw the ball. We'll see. They haven't done it at all. He's been beat up every week. He keeps taking hits. We were joking about it on Monday. He's not going to make it through the season if they keep doing what they're doing now. Yeah. So I'm watching the offensive line. Can they actually set a pocket and give him 2.8 seconds to throw the football?
I'm going to have my guy to fade being Ben Skoranek. Now, the fear here is for you to fade someone. That means somebody out there is embracing Ben Skoranek. I don't think anybody is, but he had 6 catches last week. I know people can sometimes get desperate with bye weeks. If you're really desperate and you're looking for 10 points, maybe he can do it. But I don't think there's any more meat on that bone. Like, to me, Ben Skoranek is a max dude where you get 6 catches, 55 yards. You may get a random touchdown every once in a while, but it's a real dart throw. They need pass catchers. They need receivers. They need offensive help. I'm not looking to Skoranek. So he's my fade here. Who's your guy, Ray?
My guy to fade is, unfortunately, DJ Moore. I'm concerned, obviously, about the offense. I'm concerned about the fact that they struggle at times to get him the ball. We've got PJ Walker. What is that going to mean? Is the offense going to work? I am not as bullish on his chances this week of having the offense work as you are. I'm fading DJ Moore. Is he a wide receiver 3 this week? Right at the edge. Like, I'm not saying everyone shouldn't be playing him. I think a lot of people, though, probably have 3 better options.
You're wrong here, Ray. People think Pickett to Pickens is cool. Just wait until they see PJ to DJ. That's actually cool.
That's pretty tight.
Bigger disappointment, DJ Moore or Allen Robinson?
DJ Moore. No, Allen Robinson. I feel like DJ Moore could still do it. Allen Robinson. I think he's done.
Finished. Ray Flowers is out for the count. Finally, watchability between the Rams and the Panthers.
2.
Despite my love of watching PJ Walker, Ray, I'm also with a 2. You know, it's a PJ Walker driven 2. Without him, if this were Mayfield, Ray, it may be a 1.
1, okay, gotcha.
It may be a 1 if Baker Mayfield was under center. Okay, more games to come in week 6, but we can't even start week 6 until we start with tonight, Thursday night football in Chicago, Illinois, where the Bears are playing on the shores of Lake Michigan. They've got Washington in town. We have got Tyler Beaker here on Lunch Money. He's with Fantasy Guru. His work and all sorts of great work is available over at fantasyguru.com. Make sure to use the promo code BETTOR, BETTOR, to get 20% off. You can get all of Tyler's work, Ray's work, Armando Marsal, Jeff Mans, Jorge Pucks, Ryan Clifford, Siege, everybody. Got a whole crew over there. A lot of guys who are dynamite. Tyler is with us for another Thursday. How you doing today, Tyler?
Doing great over here. How about you guys?
I think we're doing well. Have you prepared yourself mentally for Thursday night football? Last week, it was tough to recover. Are you ready to go tonight and do it again?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a great night where you say to the wife or the girlfriend, maybe there's no football on tonight. Let's do something else together. Let's watch our favorite show. Get some brownie points.
Be a
Get
good
some brownie
guy.
points. Yeah.
I think we're all hoping, fingers crossed, this game is different than we think. We'll get into all the specifics with you, Tyler, obviously, but generally we bring you on, we talk game flow, we talk game script with you. How do you see this game playing out? Are we getting points now? What was the number, Kyle? 39? What was it?
38,
38?
I think.
Yeah.
Low.
Are we going over that? Are we going under that? Talk to us about the thing in general before we get specifics with you.
Just like last week, it's another rough matchup. The 38 points is the lowest of the entire week. So if this were on the normal Sunday slate of games, this would be a game we would probably avoid for DFS purposes and picking our spots with betting. Once again, I think that's applicable here. Pace of play, just super dreadful for this matchup. Like, it's going to be a slow one. The Bears, they're averaging just over 21 pass plays per game. That's anemic, like historically low. Dead last in the league. They're also dead last in total plays per game, as their run-heavy rates have generally led to less play volume and more clock drainage. Bears are bottom 8 in seconds per snap during neutral script. Washington, they're on the other end of the spectrum. They're top 5 in terms of how fast they play. But I just expect the Bears' lethargic pace of play just to weigh down this overall thing. And the fun thing here about this matchup is the way each team normally game plans for their matchups. We know Washington wants to pass heavily. They're number 2 in early down pass rate behind only Buffalo. The opposite end of the spectrum, the Bears are number 1 in the highest run rate on early downs. The matchups here, though, they're set up for the opposite way. So the Bears run heavy style of play goes up against a Washington defense that's weak against the pass. The Washington team that's great against wants to throw the ball is set up to run the ball heavily here against the Chicago team. Is just really depending on, will these coaches adjust to attack the opposing team's weaknesses? I have my reservations given these coaching staffs.
Yeah, don't blame me on that, Tyler. Kyle and I had a little bit of a back and forth with Carson Wentz. So let's start out there. What are your thoughts with the passing game? Obviously, there's injuries in the receiving core with the Redskins, and a lot of people are talking about the backfield, which we'll get to with you. But talk to us about Carson Wentz against this Bears teams. What are you expecting tonight?
Yeah, I kind of like Carson Wentz quite a bit. I know he's dealing through an injury here, but we're also seeing a Bears defense that's just decimated in the secondary. They've got some weaknesses in terms of their pass rush and stuff like that. But even without some of their main weapons, like Jahan Dotson's not going to play, Logan Thomas is not going to play, we can still see Carson Wentz dink and dunk his way towards some productive outings here. He's completed 25 plus passes in every single matchup this year. I think that's notable given that he's got some short area guys with J.D. McKissick, Curtis Samuel, and then even Terry McLaurin. His ADOT isn't as deep as it's historically been. So there's some chances for Wentz to continue his productivity here. But he's not a player you need to jam in typical 12-team starting lineup, a start-sit format. I don't view him as a top 12 quarterback option this week. And again, the pace of play here is just really going to negate any type of ceiling that we could see here from Wentz in terms of a 300-plus yard outing and 3+ passing touchdown game.
Let it forever be known. Ray asked, "Hey, what do you think of Carson Wentz? Redheads stick together." Tyler said, yeah, I got to stick with Carson Wentz. He's going to be pretty good tonight. This redhead's got to fight the good fight. How about the backfield? What's your feeling on Gibson Robinson? I feel like everybody believes Gibson is done and they're going to move on and Robinson's going to get all the work. What do you expect in the backfield? And I know it's difficult because we've seen 4 quarters of Robinson and, last week was the first go around, but what's your expectation in the backfield? And we should throw McKissick's name in there too. Is it still going to be a mess, you think, tonight?
For sure. I still believe it's going to be a running back by committee. Gibson's snaps and his rush share went down for, I think it was the 5th consecutive week. Season lows across the board there with the emergence of Brian Robinson. Robinson, I kind of like, though. I think given the rush volume he saw last week, I think it was 9 carries for him, 3 for Gibson. If we see that kind of split maintain, Robinson could be in for a pretty good outing here. The Bears are 25th in rush DVOA defense. They're giving up the 4th most rushing yards to opposing backs. So Robinson could hit the ground running here. Again, but Washington wants to pass the ball. So it's really, will they lean on the run when they should, or will they just stick with Wentz until he's broken? That's the big question here. And because of that, I think you can go with Brian Robinson in seasonal formats as a flex play. McKissick as a flex play as well. He still has a monopoly on all of the long down and distances, all of the obvious passing play situations. So if you can go with him in a full PPR format, but Gibson's the guy that if you've drafted him in a seasonal format, you're just tucking him away on the bench right now. You cannot start him.
Tyler, there's a lot of storylines with the potatoes, and you mentioned the name and Tyler Terry McLaurin. What's going on here? Like, we all expected more. We talked about, well, Wentz is better than the quarterback play theoretically he's had in the past. McLaurin's always had success, and he's gone out there and he's caught us 4 passes for 62 yards or whatever the hell he's doing. Is tonight a night, you've already spoke about this in general, but is tonight a night where it's more than that? Is Terry McLaurin a wide receiver 3, just like he's been every week in this matchup tonight with the Bears?
I do believe so. There's the chance where he goes off. But I also believe that last week against the Tennessee Titans secondary, that was abysmal in the secondary with their cornerback play. And yet we saw Dyami Brown going for the big 75-yard score. And then Dyami Brown once again for another, I think, a 30-plus yard score. But the thing with Dyami is he was still 4th among all the wide receivers in routes run. So he just ran hot in terms of being able to get the big plays, unlimited play volume, and opportunity. McLaurin is the guy there that's still gaining the most targets, still gaining the most routes. So he has the opportunity in his favor. It's just we have yet to see the ceiling outcome. And I thought last week with Logan Thomas out, with Jahan Dotson out, it could have been the golden opportunity for him to take up that mantle, but we just really haven't seen it yet. So perhaps he does it this Thursday, but that's just pure conjecture because we have yet to see it. The matchup here does point toward a potential blow-up week. But I have my reservations, obviously, by the way I'm phrasing this.
Tyler Beaker is with us, a fantasy guru, talking about how the game scripts may play out tonight between the Commanders and the Bears. On the Bears side, you touched on the fact they're really slow. Plotting, I guess, is maybe the appropriate word.
Yeah.
After 5 weeks, do you find those numbers ever change? Or are we kind of locked in, like this is gonna be the Bears all year? They're just gonna stay with this route. Or do some teams kind of change as we progress through a season?
Well, we saw the Bears last week against Minnesota jump up their pass volume in terms of the most pass attempts we've seen from Justin Fields to date. But I do believe this is going to be a run-heavy offense. We've got 5 weeks of it already under the belt. We saw David Montgomery return last week, and he picked up his normal rush share in terms of his opportunities. So I believe we're going to see him involved once again here. Washington's run defense isn't really the best to target. They're more susceptible through the air. But again, this Bears team, like I said, Carson Wentz has completed 25-plus pass attempts or pass completions every single game. Justin Fields has yet to even attempt 25 passes in a game. So the volume is just purely not there. So I don't know. I think there's a chance like Darnell Mooney goes for 100-plus yards, but if he's going to do it, he's got to do it on one of his 3 or 4 catches. Like he just does not exceed 5+ targets per game. Cole Kmet's an afterthought right now. And then any other wide receiver is just a blind dart throw for DFS Showdown.
Let me jump in here. Like this 21 pass attempt things, or not even getting to 20. How much of an outlier is that in the NFL? Like, what's the average? And like, are the Bears like trying to play 1970s football and it just can't work in the 2020s?
I forget the numbers, but it's historically bad. Like, I think like bottom 15 all time.
Wow.
So we're looking at some rough passing numbers here. And again, week 1 was a monsoon kind of outing, but I mean, even in that matchup, Trey Lance threw the ball more than Justin Fields. So this team just wants to run the ball. They've got a quarterback that can run the ball. We had like that 50-plus yard touchdown on the ground last week called back against Minnesota. So there's some upside there with Justin Fields running the ball, but it's just not an offense that's conducive to the pass right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you look at this. So we're looking at this team, and people are in super flex, 2 quarterback leagues are playing Fields. Maybe in the DFS game they're giving it a shot, right? But really on this offense, what I'm hearing from you, Tyler, and I think this is the way most people see it, is the only real start here is David Montgomery. Talk to us about the backfield for the Bears. Talk to us about Montgomery in this matchup. And what about Khalil Herbert? Is he still a flex type option in like a 12-team league this week?
Yeah, David Montgomery does set up to see the most volume here. Again, he returned last week from injury. Saw, I think it was over 70% of the rush share in this offense among the running backs. So Herbert slid back to the RB2 play. And again, he's not a player you want to start. Given the lack of volume here, even if they're low on pass plays, their total play volume, again, dead last. So total play volume, even the run volume isn't where it should be to have enough opportunities for two backs to thrive here. So you really just want to start David Montgomery. Khalil Herbert, you just keep tucked away on fantasy benches in the event of another Monty injury. But I would not suggest starting Khalil Herbert this week. The only way he's going to pay off for you is if he gets in the end zone. But I just don't see a path to him having enough volume to be able to put up a usable week in the flex in a game that should be slow paced and low scoring. Like this 38-point game total, again, it's dead last in the week. Not expecting a lot of points here, not a lot of touchdown opportunities. Both these teams are bottom 7 or 8 in total points per game scored. I mean, you stick with David Montgomery, and that's it for the rushing attack.
It can't be worse than last week, though, right? It can't be worse than what we saw. I can't imagine.
The bar is very low.
The bar is low. It's a limbo match that can't be won, I don't think. Okay, well, Tyler. For those who missed it, Ray, what was it? Somebody had a tweet of our man Tyler.
Yeah.
And it was Tyler's face on Hayden Hurst's body, because if people look at Hayden Hurst of the Bengals, they're going to be looking at Tyler Beaker, right? I mean, they've got a similar look here.
I think Russell Clay is the one that tweeted out, but I think one of our users, do you know the story, Tyler? I think one of our users created it.
Yeah, it's been going on for a month now, I think. Any image of Hayden Hurst getting a touchdown, I'm always like pinged in our Discord, Tyler scored a touchdown. I love it, though. It's funny as hell.
It is good stuff. Well, thank you so much. You're always full of good stuff, Tyler. Thanks for joining us on a Thursday. Next week, you warned me of this. Is next week you're out of town? You're on the wedding in Jamaica?
Correct. I will be out of the country. Celebrating a wedding. It'll be fun.
Okay. Beard is sticking for the wedding?
Yes. Sticking with the beard. Wow. Yeah.
The go-ahead has been delivered. Okay, well, enjoy the heck out of that trip. Next Thursday, New Orleans, Arizona. You're not going to miss much by going to that wedding. So have a great time. Thanks for your help this week, and enjoy the remainder of the weekend. You got another big, thorough, in-depth look with the rest of this weekend. Is that out Saturday morning? Is that the plan?
Yes, Saturday afternoon, I have my game script article where I'm kind of doing exactly how we started off this segment, talking about how I expect pace of play, pass rates, run rates, and matchups to kind of unfold, and identifying the players that stand to benefit the most. So look out for that on fantasyguru.com. It'll be available Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's each and every game, every single game. So a lot of great DFS information in there, even seasonal information there on Saturday afternoons. Tyler, thank you so much. Have a good remainder of your day, okay?
All right, thanks. You guys have a good one.
You bet. Tyler Beaker joining us from fantasyguru.com. We will take another timeout here. Got some more games to get to for week 6. We'll maybe talk a little baseball because the postseason is ongoing. No Yankees game tonight. They and the Guardians have called it. They've bagged it. They're going to try to play tomorrow because of the forecast tonight. But we do have Mariners Astros. So still some things to talk about there. Also on the flip side, we got an update on Rashad Bateman and that Ravens passing attack. So stick around. It's all coming your way after Duke, who's hanging out in the den.
Good afternoon, bettors. It's your boy Duke back and better than ever. Hour 3 here for you. Of course, I am presented, as always, by fantasyguru.com. Welcome back to Duke's Den, where I try to make you money one bet at a time. Gave you 2 bets last hour for tonight's Thursday night football game. Talked about Survivor in hour 1. I think we're leaning towards the 49ers. I'm pretty partial to the Chargers on Monday night, taking on that horrendous Broncos team. I don't know if I'll get enough pull from the rest of the staff to get everybody on board with that. So we're probably going with the Niners. Of course, if you have the Bucks or the Packers, maybe those are options as well. For Thursday night football, I actually gave you a lot of stats of why the under makes sense, but I took the over. Why would that be, Duke? Well, number 1, Washington has no running game whatsoever, even though their rookie came back who got shot twice and did okay. They're averaging like 3 yards a carry. They're not going to run the ball. Carson Wentz is going to throw it all over the place. He's got a little injured shoulder. I think that leads to 2 things. Number 1, short fields for Chicago. Wentz is a turnover machine. And number 2, perhaps the Commanders playing catch-up in a game. With a low total, I think we can get to 40-plus points in the Bears squeak it out. So if you want to tail me, there you go. Chicago in the over if you missed hour 2. I did talk about I would say some college football bets this hour. I'm going to give you one. But yesterday at 11 a.m., Tyler Beaker, our boy, our prop master, put in a prop that I wanted to give you for tonight's game, Thursday Night Football. And it's Carson Wentz minus 4.5 completions against Justin Fields. Over on DraftKings, that's minus 120 at the time when he put the bet in. I don't know what it is now, but here's his why. And of course, we always try to throw a why in there with our bets, so we're not just willy-nilly throwing things out there, right? The bet is saying that Wentz completes 5 passes more than Justin Fields, and we've seen this in 4 of his 5 games so far, with the lone exception being the injury situation for the Giants. So basically, Trey Lance out through Fields, Rodgers did Fields, Mills exactly, Tyrod in the injury situation there, and then Cousins basically more than doubled up Justin Fields, right? So it should be a slam dunk. Wentz has completed 25 passes in every single matchup this year. Fields has yet to even attempt 25 passes in a single game. On the surface, and for the reasons I just mentioned, this seems like a very sharp bet. I do think there's a chance they're playing from behind. Because of that no run game, Wentz is going to be slinging it all over the field. So I'm backing up Tyler Beaker's prop here. I'm going to throw it in my bet pack as well. Carson Wentz minus 4.5 pass completions versus Justin Fields. Now, look, I'll give you an NCAA bet. We do have football tonight. We have Ted Schuster over in our bet pack. He likes over 54.5, I guess it is now. Last night he got it at 54. Baylor, West Virginia. That's a Thursday night game. 3.5 point road favorites here for Baylor. Points all over the place. Over 54.5, courtesy of Ted.
It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Right back at you on a Thursday. Kyle and Ray on Lunch Money. Big thanks to Duke for helping us out again today. A lot of college football calls coming your way tomorrow on the show. We'll talk some more college football as well as we get you set for the Saturday. I got some good games, including number 1 Alabama is taking on top 10 ranked Tennessee. So maybe we get a great SEC showdown coming up on Saturday afternoon. Again, we'll get you a preview tomorrow right here on Lunch Money. As we continue, though, we are previewing Week 6. Before we get back into the games, Ray, we got an update on Rashad Bateman, who probably is not looking good for this weekend again, huh?
Yeah, Jamison Hensley, who covers the team, is letting us know that we're not seeing Bateman at practice today with that foot issue of his. That is now 5 straight practices he's missed. That it does not bode well for a return this week. Still obviously possible, but it's looking like Bateman is appearing likely to miss another game with the foot injury. Devin Duvernay, I have to imagine, is rostered everywhere at this point in time. But even so, as we've discussed, it's not a high volume role in this offense, the wide receiver spot, but it does certainly help him if we have Bateman on the sidelines.
I mean, I get it if you're slotting Duvernay into your fantasy lineup, but I'm not feeling it. Like, I don't think that's a good bet. I can understand people saying, well, who else is catching the football? To which I say Mark Andrews, like he always does, the same old. And if he's not open, Lamar Jackson is tucking and running, so it really hurts this offense just to not have really any options. And Duvernay, Ray, is to me still a real dart throw. It's not like, oh, Bateman's out, Duvernay is going to get a lot of work. You're still looking at a guy that I think profiles at best as like a wide receiver 3 for this weekend.
Yeah, he's averaging 3.4 catches. And we saw him touch the ball a little bit on the ground, which is nice, getting him more involved that way because there's no volume here. It's basically 4 catches for 43 yards or whatever the hell it is. That's just what it is. I mean, it's
Odell Beckham with the Rams.
There you go, Kyle, based from the earlier discussion on the show. There's always a chance because he's dynamic and we've seen it, the kick returns, all thing. We know that Duvernay is blazing in the open field, but there's just no opportunity. There's no volume here. Even with Bateman out, you still can't look at him and think he's getting 8 to 10 targets, which is interesting because they did have Marquise Brown and, he got his 8 to 10 targets every week in this offense, but they just don't seem willing to do that this year with the wide receiver position.
Ravens going to be on the road this weekend taking on the Giants. I think we'll probably get to that game coming up tomorrow as we preview the action for Week 6. If you're just dropping into Lunch Money, Jonathan Taylor is at practice today, so that's a good sign for him. Raheem Mostert at practice. Tyreek Hill is at practice, so some good signs there. Within the next hour to 90 minutes, we'll get a lot of practice reports, and our guys Corey and Nando and their friends will have you covered with all the information there. So stick around, keep it right here on BSN for the latest there. As we continue profiling and previewing week 6, Ray, we go to Atlanta. Your San Francisco 49ers are on the road. 5.5-point favorite. Niners pretty heavy on the money line, minus 240 as a favorite there. The over-under is at 44.5. Your favorite prop for 49ers against Falcons?
Go Niners. My favorite prop is Deebo Samuel to go over 57.5 receiving yards, which is a minus 115. He's caught 5 passes in 3 of 4 games. He's been over 70 yards in 2 of the last 3 games. This is obviously, just like every week, an opportunity for him to go nuts. I don't think the Falcons can game plan their way to stop this guy. We know he's a central piece of this offense. I'm surprised. I mean, I know the Niners aren't, throwing up 280 yards a week in passing, but 57.5 yards for Deebo Samuel through the air, I'm taking it.
Well, and the thing with Deebo, Ray, I was looking at this earlier this week, and let me pull up the information here. The last couple of games, because we think of him as rusher and receiver, last couple of games, the rushing has kind of disappeared. 4 carries in the last 2 weeks. I guess 9 carries, 13. Is this lower than you would have thought? Number of carries for Deebo Samuel. We're sitting at 21 carries through 5 weeks. Is that a reasonable total, or is that lower than you might have expected with him?
I think it's a little bit low, but I'm not. I mean, 4 or 5 carries a week, what are you expecting? I mean, I think that
last year, just to compare it, he had 59 carries. A lot of that came late, right, when they kind of embraced the idea of him being a runner and receiver.
Right.
So his pace is actually better.
Yeah.
But I guess when you look at the last 6 weeks of last season, he was used more often as a runner.
Right. Yeah. He was getting 6 or 8 versus, 3 or 4. I think that, you go into a game and you hope that he gets 3 to 5 carries. I think you set your expectations in that zone. And I think that, as a pass catcher, when we've seen this, he's averaging 8 targets a week or whatever the number is. That should be there every week too. And that speaks to what we talked about all offseason at fantasyguru.com. The idea that, he is one of the few guys, it's like him and Cooper Kupp, basically, that are getting 10 touches a week. I mean, 10 targets or touches a week. There's other receivers that hit that mark all the time, of course. Maybe Justin Jefferson's in that zone now too, but there's just not that many guys that you can look at and say the ball is going to be in their hands that frequently when they play the wide receiver position.
My favorite prop is taking an under on passing yardage for Marcus Mariota. I talked about this on Monday. He is just not a threat when he's throwing the football. I don't think defenses fear him. His passing yardage is set at 194.5. So again, give me the under minus 115. This Niners defense is legit. We saw what they did to the Panthers last week. I do worry a bit about, back-to-back games on the East Coast. So that's a lot of time away from home. Now, the time zone stuff really shouldn't be a difference, but back-to-back road trips, you stay out there all week. So it's a little difficult, but this defense should be able to handle Mariota. I think he's going to get all of his production with his legs, not with his arms. So I'll take the under there. I've also got him as my player to watch. We're getting closer, Ray. I think a loss this week, and then I was looking at the schedule here. If they lose this week, now they got those 2 wins, so it's hard to replace a guy. But you got San Francisco this week, and you go to Cincinnati next week. Reasonable minds, Ray, would say 2 losses. Maybe a split, but probably 2 losses. If the 2 losses happen, Ray, I think Desmond Ridder is going to be under center for the game 2 weeks from now against Carolina. I think Ridder could be out there. So Mariota, I put him down as my guy to watch because he does need a good performance. I don't think Ridder's ready. These guys are rarely ready when you throw them in there. I just think Atlanta might continue to see blah results and nothing exciting and make that move in a couple of weeks. So I got Mariota as my guy to watch. Who's your guy to watch?
My guy to watch is George Kittle. And, George Kittle has really down for about half a season, if you include the playoffs, kind of just been an okay tight end option in the fantasy game. Hasn't really done much. And, we see it. We saw it last week, right? There was a couple of nice plays. He broke a tackle. He's had some ball security issues. He's been asked to block a lot because Trent Williams is down the offensive line. The Niners all-world left tackle. He's averaging 3.5 catches for 33 yards the last 3 games on 5 targets. Like this is, he has fallen from he being right in the middle of that second tier of tight end to in that tier of tight end where everyone is from 9 to 15 at the position. That's where he is right now. And so I want to watch to see what happens here because this is a good matchup on paper. The Falcons are allowing the fourth most points to the position. The Niners, I think, would really like to establish George Kittle, but I want to see it happen. He's trending toward the not streaming option, but back end tight end one done really quickly here if he's not already there right now, Kyle.
Yeah, he's trending toward disappointment is kind of where he's trending towards. I guess one disappointing tight end deserves another. My guy to fade is Kyle Pitts. Now, if you have him in season long, you play him.
Same with Kittle.
Kyle Pitts is going to be active. You play him. What are your choices? You have to play him. But I don't think this is going to be a snap and we're back to filling Kyle Pitts. For whatever reason, this is a mystery that even Robert Stack can't solve. It's like, what in the world is going on with the play calling, and why can't they get Kyle Pitts involved? He's coming off this hamstring injury. It's good to have him back on the field. Again, I don't expect much from this Falcons offense. I think Kyle Pitts may have 2, 3, 4 catches, but no kind of yardage, not really filling the touchdowns. I'd love to see it, but I think I'm going to be fading him for this one. Who is your fade, Falcons and Niners?
Yeah, my player to fade is Tevin Coleman. I think this one goes without saying, but I'm saying it just to be clear. Coleman saw a little bit of a concerning amount of touches last week, given Jeff Wilson's performance and given who Jeff Wilson needs to be for teams. By that, I mean, I'm a little concerned why the Niners would give so much work to Coleman when they've got Wilson doing such nice things. But at the end, Wilson still had his 18 touches. He still had his 100-plus yards, all that kind of stuff. Tevin Coleman, I don't even know, I don't know what happened last week. I don't know where that came from. I know it's not going to be repeated. And with TDP returning to practice this week, I mean, it's possible that Coleman's down to third on the depth chart this week in the Niners backfield. So don't chase points with Tevin Coleman. He's the guy to fade this week.
I've got a dreadful lineup question for you, Ray, me personally.
Okay.
And it deals with these Falcons.
Okay.
I have Pierce on bye. I lost Javonte Williams. I have a choice for my second running back. And Ray, wait till you hear these choices.
Okay.
Caleb Huntley.
Okay.
Kenneth Gainwell. Joshua Kelly. Is it Kelly? It's not Huntley, is it? I mean, is Huntley got – I hate this matchup, so it's probably an easy fade on him. But, like, am I left with Joshua Kelly? Is that the bag I'm going to be holding in week 6?
I'm still Damian Williams. You know that. So I'm not doing Huntley. Gainwell or Kelly. I mean, Kelly, if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's like 2 points. Gainwell. I mean, at least Kelly is getting involved, is getting 8 touches. I would go Kelly over Gainwell. Gainwell's touchdown or bust. That's tough. I mean, like you're saying, it's a deep league. You're injured. Hopefully the listeners don't have that decision because it's not a good one. That's a DFS call because of price. That's not where you want to be in the seasonal setup.
Watchability, I'm coming in with a 2.5 on the 49ers and the Falcons.
2, even lower, huh?
Yeah. Not much excitement there, but you'll root them on. You'll cheer them on. You have to do something there.
Yes.
Just not all that exciting when it's a Mariota offense against a Garoppolo offense. Like two teams who have no problem being, first 1 to 20 wins. That may be what we get on Sunday. It is very different from what we may get at Arrowhead on Sunday. Let's go to a game that, Ray, I'll spoil it. Watchability of Bills and Chiefs, that's a 5, right? That's a 5.
Yeah, you could make arguments for something else, but I think we all have to agree it's a 5.
Yeah, this is a 5. This is a 5. Bills and Chiefs. This is a big showdown coming up. Obviously, Chiefs are looking for revenge, or I should say the Bills are looking for revenge last season, losing that game in OT. We're expecting 54 is that over-under here. Buffalo is favored by 2.5 points. That means the teams are fairly even because you usually bake in 3 points for the home team. Or maybe I shouldn't say they're fairly even. I guess that means Buffalo is maybe 3-4 points better than Kansas City, but they're favored by 2.5 here. Kansas City, an underdog on the money line, of course, plus 115 is the number. Ray, a lot of players that you can watch. Who is the guy you've got your eye on for Sunday in Kansas City?
Definitely true. Maybe this is some personal, animosity or concern myself. But I'm going Juju Smith-Schuster, and it's really interesting. And Jeff Mans was talking about this on his show yesterday. He's like, if you look at Juju Smith-Schuster and you look at Drake London, basically the same fantasy numbers. You look at, other than the 2 touchdowns that London had, you look at DJ Moore, basically the same numbers. Like people are down on those guys, but they're out on Juju Smith-Schuster. And, he still is a guy that has 5 catches in 2 or 3 games, in 3 of 5 games. I don't know why they haven't established him more. I don't know why he's not getting 5 catches every week for 70 yards. Like, I don't know why this is not the game plan. But this game could obviously shoot out. It should be a lot of up and down. I want to watch and see if we get this week the Juju Smith-Schuster we thought we were drafting, because it hasn't really been there to date.
Yeah, I brought this up Tuesday after the game on Monday night. It's like this Chiefs offense is still good. They're not great, but they're good. But as good as they are, they just don't have big numbers outside of Kelsey. Like, he's the big number dude, and everybody else is. It's amazing. You would think there'd be, well, this guy one week, that guy the next week. There really isn't. There's no other guy besides Kelsey. I guess early in the year we had the Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of cheapy touchdowns, but they have just this weird way of truly involving everybody. I complained about Washington earlier in the week, and I said they got too many guys. They got too many options. You don't know who they want to get the ball to or what kind of offense. Kansas City's kind of doing that, but they're doing it successfully to where they got so many options, so many guys. My fate is this backfield, Ray, because it is so many guys. And in a game like this, you want a piece of this backfield. You think, oh my God, if the Chiefs are going to put up 30, surely one of these running backs will get it done. And they probably will, but am I going to sit here and tell you it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Pacheco or McKinnon? I have no idea what it's going to be in the backfield. So to me, I think it's a chancy start with no matter who you go in the Kansas City backfield. The player I've got to watch is Gabriel Davis. He's back at the scene of the crime. Last year he went nuts in this playoff game at Arrowhead. Last week he went nuts at Pittsburgh. Problem with Gabriel Davis has been doing it game after game. So again, last week, 3 catches, massive numbers, but it was just 3 catches. Now, they smoked Pittsburgh off the field. We're not going to have that on Sunday in Kansas City. It's not going to be a 38-3 final. It's not going to be a 28-0 lead. Gabriel Davis needs to step up. Here's your chance, man. You reminded us last week what you are. Now your chance to do it again, and to do it in a place where you really just ripped up the Chiefs last season. So that'll be my guy to watch. Who is your fade for the Bills and the Chiefs, Ray?
Yeah, my fade is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And, we saw last week, I think a lot of this has to do with game flow, right? When the Chiefs get down, it seems like it's McKinnon. Like, that's what we saw last week. There was a pretty even share with the snap, the workload with McKinnon and with CH, both in snaps and routes run. Pacheco's lurking. He's more of a guy that they utilize if there's an injury or if the game gets out of hand. So he's not really in this mix. But my guy to fade is CH, because he's scored well in the fantasy game, but it's touchdowns. And it's not to the level of Chase Edmonds, who we talked about earlier this week, because CH is involved in the offense. But I get that same feeling. It's like CH is a 64-yard of offense, no touchdown waiting to happen guy, right? It's like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it certainly is not someone that you should be starting if you're only looking at the point totals to date. So I'm fading him. He's a flex option. I think he's a flex option most weeks. I just wanted to put that out there.
Got a question in our chat room about Pacheco, and it's kind of an either or, Eno Benjamin or Pacheco. It's looking okay. Well, I can't even say okay for James Conner. He's a true question mark. Let's just say that. James Conner is not practicing. Maybe he'll get limited today or something. That game is a late game. This game between Kansas City and Buffalo, late afternoon game. Same thing with Arizona and Seattle. Now, as we told you yesterday, the Arizona-Seattle game could be even later on Sunday. If there is a game 4 between the Mariners and the Astros, that game would be in Seattle. That game's going to be taking place on the early side of the afternoon. So they said, hey, we'll push back an Arizona-Seattle Seahawk game to like 5:30 Eastern. So you may still be in this predicament on Sunday. But, Ray, to me, Eno Benjamin is up against a defense that is bad this year in Seattle. I think even if Connor dresses, we're going to see Eno Benjamin. Mm-hmm. You said with Pacheco, I mean, Pacheco kind of looks the part, but the numbers just aren't there. The touches just aren't there right now. Eventually they may happen, but they're just not there through the first 5 weeks. For me, it's going Eno Benjamin. And I would probably even go with him, Ray, even if we hear that Connor is cleared to play.
Yeah, I think that's the right call this week. The potential blow up is Eno Benjamin. The potential floor, I still think, though, is Eno Benjamin. Kyle's right. Seattle is allowing 5 yards per carry on the ground, 9 touchdowns on the ground, which is second most in football. That's a scenario where the Cardinals obviously should have success. It's possible James Conner doesn't play. It's possible that he plays 9 snaps, re-injures himself. He's a walking wounded kind of guy. Benjamin is the guy. Pacheco, as we've said all along, is a stash. He's a hold. He's a what could be player. Benjamin is a better play this week.
Another question in our chat room, McCall Hardman. And Ray, I know coming into the season, you had a soft spot for the guy. I think you've mostly bailed on that. Again, it's kind of like Pacheco. I guess it was a bit better last week against the Raiders, a little more involved. The yardage was there. And I get it. I mean, we all understand what Hardman can be. But when you look at his track record here, it's mostly miss after miss after miss, and then a sprinkling of a hit, and then miss after miss after miss. I'm not saying Hardman can't do things. He's shown he can do things, but you got to understand he has shown zero consistency. Like there's none of that. And at this level, that's really what makes you good is the consistency. He doesn't have it. And whether that's his fault or the Chiefs' fault, I don't know. Like Hardman's a fine dart throw, but you got to understand that's a dart throw from 50 yards back. That's not a dart throw from 10 yards away. So Ray, I mean, you just everywhere you look, it's, and even the targets aren't there. The yardage isn't there, and the touchdowns aren't there. I understand in a shootout like this, what we expect to be a shootout, there's the attraction, but this is a player that you're really guessing on from week to week.
Yeah, and he tweaked the heel after the catch last week, one of the catches last week too. That's something to think about. It is an injury that's pre-existing he's dealing with. The matchup suggests there'll be points, but there's always going to be points with the Chiefs, right? And to Kyle's point, as much as I was on Hardman, it just hasn't happened. And it's not that it's the Juju Smith-Schuster it's not happening. In the case of Hardman, he catches the 40-yard pass, or he's got 6 yards. Like there's nothing happening. Yeah. There's no consistency. There's no consistency in snaps. There's no consistency in targets for sure. The good news is, I think, well, at least to date, we've been right. Like Sky Moore wasn't taking Hardman's job. Unfortunately, neither guy has stepped forward, which is very surprising. Hardman is okay as like your 5th, 6th receiver if you're in a deeper league. He's not someone you should be starting this week.
Well, and again, I know there's this belief of scoring and points. And I'm sure, I mean, again, you can look at his game by game and you can see, oh, wow, they scored 44 points and he had a touchdown. Like, for instance, they had 44 points against Arizona. He had 3 catches, 16 yards, and a score. Now, is that a good game? To me, it isn't. Right. But he got a touchdown. But 2 weeks ago, they had 41 points. He had 1 catch for 4 yards. Yeah. If you look at last season, here's a 48-9 victory. 2 catches, 99 yards, no touchdowns. 2 catches. I mean, so and there's games like they had 41 points against Vegas, 2 catches, 27 yards. They had 31 points against Cincinnati, 1 catch, 53 yards. They had 34 points against the Chargers last year, 2 catches, 11 yards. Like we tend to think that if they're scoring, Hardman's in there, but if you look at the fact of the matter, it's not necessarily true. I mean, the guy has had 3 touchdowns in the last 20 games. So that's what you're dealing with McCall Hardman. Let's get you another game. It is another big game. It is Sunday Night Football. It is Dallas on the road taking on Philadelphia. Despite the good vibes that so many of us have with the Cowboys, they are a distinct underdog on the road in Philly. 6.5 points on this one. Over under is set at 42. Cooper Rush expected to be under center. Obviously for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts going to be under center. Favorite prop, undefeated Eagles against the surging Cowboys. What's the prop you got, Ray?
Plus 105, Eagles 24.5 points. They're going to score. I think Dallas' defense is good. Obviously, they can get after the quarterback. We know that. Jalen Hurts can negate that with his legs. And I don't look at this matchup and think that the Cowboys can stop the offense of the Eagles, So I'm taking that over 24.5 points.
I'm going to go with an alternate line here. Again, Eagles are favored by 6.5. If you kick it up to 7.5, if they lay 7.5, you can get them at plus 110 over at DraftKings. Now, I think if you push it to 7, it's even money. But I kind of like the Eagles to win by more than a touchdown here. It's Ray, and that's a hard bet because Dallas's defense has been very good. But this is a totally different threat with Hurts. It's playing guys who can get out of the pocket and hurt you out of the pocket. When you look at the teams Dallas has played, you don't have that with Matthew Stafford. You don't have that with Joe Burrow. Who else have they had on their schedule? I guess they had Daniel Jones, who can hurt you when he decides to run, but I think that was the game he had injured the ankle, or he had been a little pulled back that Monday night game. They haven't faced anybody like this. They haven't faced this sort of player in Jalen Hurts. So I think this is a totally different challenge. They can still slow him down, but I worry about this Cowboys offense on the road. Like even last week in that game against the Rams, they really dominated from the opening whistle, and yet they only ended up with 22 points. And the points they got were driven by great field position or turnovers by their defense. This offense is still kind of lagging. And because of that, I think this spread's a little too low. Like I get 6.5, and that's kind of a big spread in the NFL, but I feel if you kick it up to 7.5, 8, that's all doable for the Eagles in this matchup. So I like going that alternate line, going 7.5, and you get plus 110 there. Your player to watch, Ray, who do you have?
My player to watch in this matchup is Devonta Smith. We were talking earlier about the mistakes I have made. This is one of the mistakes that I made, and it was a bad one. To date, I have looked completely incorrect, and I'm assuming at this point I will be incorrect on Devonta Smith. I did not think that this offense would be supporting two guys seeing 10 targets out wide each week, and that's what we got. We got A.J. Brown doing his thing. We got Devonta Smith doing his thing. So I want to watch this. 11 targets in 2 or 3 games, 7 catches for 80 yards in 3 of 4 games. Is he legit emerging as a top 20 wide receiver for a guy that we were worried about getting 6 targets a week from in the offseason in some respects? I've been very impressed by what I've seen, Kyle.
Yeah, and it's funny, Ray, because I think a lot of the industry was with you. It's like, where's he going to get his chances? We're not necessarily sold on Hurts as a passer. They like to run the football in Philadelphia. You bring in A.J. Brown, like you throw all that together, and you're right. A lot of people were thinking that. On the flip side, my guy to watch, Ray, is a guy that like every year people think he's a wide receiver 1. And hey, I see it too. It's like he should be. It's CD Lamb. This will be his 5th game against Philly. He's very blah. In the previous 4 games, it's like 3 catches and 50 yards. I think he has 1 touchdown in the 4 games. He's been really quiet. He needs to step up in this game. Like he's getting targets, he's getting chances. He's yet to get 100 yards receiving in a game this season. That's despite having a lot of catches here. 7 in 1 game, 8 in another game, 6 in a game, 5 last week. Like he's getting chances, he's getting plays. There's no yak right now with CD Lamb. There needs to be some yak. Maybe it's a Cooper Rush thing. Very well could be. He will be involved. He will get targets. They have to throw him the football, but I'd love to see a big-time effort from CD Lamb on Sunday night. To me, that's how the Cowboys can pull off the upset, is if CD Lamb comes to play and kind of puts one of those star-making turns together on tape for Sunday night. Who's your fade in the Cowboys and the Eagles?
Wild to think, by the way, CD Lamb had a 50% target share last week. 5-0. 8 targets. He didn't throw the ball very much. My player to fade is his teammate, Michael Gallup. And it's nothing wrong with Michael Gallup. He's filling this role, but I just told you, CeeDee Lamb had a 50% target share. It was 8 targets. Michael Gallup had 5 targets last week, and I think that's the best we're going to get in this offense. Even if I don't think that the Eagles run away with this game and the Cowboys are forced to throw the ball 38 times. So Michael Gallup is someone to fade. I like having him on a roster. He liked what we've seen to him to date. He did have a lower snap share, though, percentage-wise last week than he did the first week. We don't have Dak Prescott under center. Michael Gallup.
I got a fade of Cooper Rush, and, I hate saying that because what he's doing, Ray, is exactly what a backup QB should do. Mm-hmm. He's, in effect, not making mistakes, and he's running the offense. They send in the play. He runs the play. Don't screw it up. And he's done a very good job of that. So I'm going to have him as a guy that you like, a guy who has a chance, a guy who has done a stellar job. But there's still nothing really fantasy relevant here. Like, I know in season long, nobody's embracing the idea of Cooper Rush, but like even in DFS, Ray, where, you can get him for a pretty cheap rate, to me, he's just not really viable as a guy. He is a caretaker at this point, and he may be back in at some other point to be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Who knows how Dak returns? But I think he's a guy doing his job, and that's what we give him credit for. We don't give him the extra credit for the fantasy numbers. They're not really there. And, hey, this is no knock because, Ray, there's a lot of quarterbacks who are much worse than Cooper Rush. We were talking about Marcus Mariota. We're talking about Carson Wentz. Like, those are probably 2 teams, Carolina with P.J. Walker. These are 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, you can name all the teams in the NFL, Ray, and they wish they were getting a quarterback like Cooper Rush right now.
Yeah, it's kind of the Jimmy Garoppolo zone, right? There's a lot of teams that want to and strive to have better than that at quarterback, but in that pursuit, they end up way worse. So Cooper Rush has done an excellent job with what he's been asked to do. But yeah, like, to your point, there's nothing to see from a fantasy perspective, despite that fact.
Yeah. Watchability for the Cowboys and the Eagles. Gave a 5 to the Bills Chiefs, Ray. I might have to give this one a 5 too. I don't think the Cowboys have an upset in them. I think Philadelphia is the better team now. Being at home is a good plus for them. But I still give this a 5. Cowboys keep surprising us. I didn't really expect them to win last week in LA. They totally beat up on the LA Rams. Maybe they do it again, but I think a 5 is where I land.
I'm going just a little low. I'm going to 4, but for those folks who've been with us for a while here at BSN, I don't give out 4s willy-nilly. That's still a pretty good mark for me. But I think it's a little less enjoyable on the surface than the other games, so they're going to 4.
If the Eagles win, 6-0 will be the record. Are they the class of the NFC, Ray? It's, are they the team, like you look at the NFC and you say Super Bowl contenders? Is Philadelphia at the top of that list? Even if they lose, maybe they'd be at the top of the list, but are they right there?
I think they are right there, yes. And, the offense has done their thing. The defense has been good enough. I think the explosiveness of the offense is something, too, that, the other teams that have similar records, we're talking about the Cowboys, things will change with Prescott. We've talked about the Giants. They've got Daniel Jones. Tampa Bay theoretically has the pieces, but can they all get on the field and stay healthy together? I think the Eagles are at the top of the list right now, yes.
This team, I'm looking at this schedule, Ray, and again, 6-0 would be a good start, really good. They get a bye next week. The remainder of this schedule is really soft. Like this could easily be a 13-win team. They have Pittsburgh coming to them. They go to Houston. They have the Commanders, of course, twice. I guess they've already played them once, but they have the Commanders coming to Philly. They visit the Colts. I mean, I still kind of struggle. Are the Colts good or are they not good? They have Green Bay and Tennessee, but both those games are at home. So that's going to help them. They have 3 consecutive road games in 14, 15, and 16, but it's the Giants, the Bears, and then the Cowboys. So, you can probably win 2 of those or at least one of those 3. And then you end the season with back-to-back home games against New Orleans and against the Giants. I mean, it's a really nice schedule, Ray. This start has helped them. The schedule is going to help them even more. And I bring that up, Ray, because I could see them being the 1 seed and everybody's fired up 13-4, 14-3. Like they'll have this record that looks uber impressive. And they have looked good this year. I'm not saying they are a paper tiger. They're not. I think they're one of the best teams in the NFC. I would not lock them in as like a big favorite if we got to the playoffs and Philly's the number 1 seed. Because I look at that schedule, it's like, it's a little light on the competition. And a lot of the tough games have been at home. They'd still be a 1 seed. They'd still be a contender, but they wouldn't be that typical like 13, 14 win team that has home field advantage. And you think, man, how can you go into Philadelphia and expect to win? Like I wouldn't have that vibe at all with the Eagles.
Yeah, I wouldn't either at this point. I mean, who knows, right? Depends. There's so many things could happen. But as we sit here right now, I agree with you. I don't look at, oh my gosh, there's no chance. Like an opponent playing in Philly, they got no chance. I wouldn't look at it that way, but I will say that, the record is one thing, but they've played good football. Like it's not just the record. They have played good football, and they certainly deserve at least to be in the consideration for that.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on how they've played. Like I can sit here and say, 5-0, 6-0, but they've won those games and they've looked good winning those games. So full credit to them. We'll see how it works out coming up on Sunday night. And again, that game is going to be on NBC. It's part of the Sunday Night Football package. Amazon's got to be looking at this stuff, Ray, and saying, wait a second, why do we always get Washington and Chicago? You get Dallas and Philly. I think you get what you pay for, which is kind of the rule. Okay, before we get out of here, only a few minutes left. Quick baseball stuff. Guardians-Yankees rained out. We are coming up, I think, in about, what is it, Ray, 40, 45 minutes on that Mariners-Houston game. Big game, too, in that one. Couple of other things shaking on the baseball. Oh, I wanted to ask you this. Dodgers lose last night, Ray. No game today. They're off to San Diego. Series is tied at 1 apiece. What do you tell a person who says, see, Clayton Kershaw can't get it done in October? Do you believe in that? Do you Do you blame him for October struggles? What's your take when people say Kershaw is a limp noodle in October?
Well, number one, he's an aging guy who has issues with health and everything, and it's late in the year when you're in the playoffs. That doesn't help anything. Number two, we have a tendency to pull things apart and look for storylines that may or may not exist. And I know, hey man, I'm looking at it right now. He's 13-12 with a 4.2 ERA. It's not good. Okay. I'm also looking at the fact that he strikes out 10 guys per 9 innings. He's got 2 walks per 9 innings. He's got a whip of 108.
Yeah.
So that's you go to,
and we gotta get he's taking on the best teams.
The best teams.
Yeah.
You strike out 10 guys per 9 with a whip of 108, you go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That's just a true story, right? And so I think way too much gets put on 5 innings here, 4 innings there, 1 matchup here, 1 matchup there. I don't buy that storyline at all.
I think more than anything, Ray, he gets to October and he can't go 7 innings anymore. He's one of those guys who always arrives in October in like 4 and 5. Like last night, he was not bad last night, but if you're only getting 5 innings and you're giving up 3 runs, it blows up the ERA.
Yeah, right.
And so that's kind of the thing there. Big win for the Padres last night. Game 3 tomorrow. Looks like Tony Gonsolin starting for the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger already going to sit in that game. One other quick note, Carlos Correa signed that 3-year deal with the Minnesota Twins last offseason. Had a so-so year, first year with the Twins. He has opted out of his contract, so he will be a free agent this offseason. We just got some news, Ray. It's big news. And I only see one source right now reporting this, but big news on Arizona-Seattle.
Yeah, Aaron Wilson, who used to write for the Houston Chronicle, is reporting that sources are telling him James Conner will miss the game with the rib injury. So that's the report there. It hasn't been verified by the team or any of the big sources, but I think Wilson's pretty trustworthy. He's reporting that James Conner will not play this week.
Yeah, we'll call him highly questionable at the very least and probably trending in the direction of being out. So that would make Eno Benjamin high-end RB2, Ray Flowers?
I'd say mid, but yeah, he'd definitely be a solid start.
Yeah, guy who jumps into your lineup, and that may help some of you with your decision tonight on Robinson and Gibson. So there you go. If you're thinking about those guys, if you got Eno Benjamin, it's looking like he's a start for Sunday. That does it for us. We are back on Friday, lunch money at 12 Eastern.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Right now, Ray, it is Cooper Kupp and nothing with this offense.
There goes Kupp. Needs a block. Gets it. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Cooper Kupp.
And Kupp, to his credit, still gets his. But, Ray, it's almost like this offense is so fixated on Cooper Kupp that nothing else. We can all complain about Stafford and the numbers, Ray, but the dude is getting murdered. Like, there's no way he's making it to week 10 at this pace right now.
Am I a Stafford backer? Yes. Did I think his arm was going to be fine? Yes. Has his arm been fine? Absolutely. His arm's totally fine. The elbow issue that we were all concerned about is not a thing. However, everything else is a massive concern. As much as I have to support Stafford, I have him in a couple leagues. I've supported him when people have asked questions. I'm no longer supporting Stafford. I can't. It has nothing to do with Matt Stafford. He's totally fine. The offense is broken, straight broken. And this offensive line somehow was only 31 out of 32 in pass blocking over at Pro Football Focus. I have no idea how the Titans are worse. They can't even set a pocket. And he's getting hit on every play. There were about 4 times yesterday where it looked like he got knocked out of the game, but he soldiered through it. This offensive line is horrible. The coaching staff and Sean McVay, you guys, you suck. Straight. I mean, you're the Super Bowl champion. This is what you're putting out there. Like, when you're going well, everyone loves you. And we've joked around, if you used a urinal next to Sean McVay once, you have a coaching job in the NFL. Where's Boy Wonder? There is nothing. This offense is horrible.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis. Weekdays at 5 Eastern.
Geno Smith is like a savior right now, which
it's a joke.
We would have been laughed at if we said, even in week 2, if we said it. And right now, he's playing great football. And
Roland, how much of an idiot am I? I mean, all the shows we were on together, I would repeatedly say, I'm not touching Metcalf, I'm not touching Lockett.
Everyone said that. I mean,
Metcalf especially, because for a while he was going in that like mid-4th round. Lockett, at least, you could get him at a decent value, the 7th, 8th round towards the end of draft season. But I was still like, I don't trust Geno. I'm not going Metcalf. I'm not going Lockett. I said it 1,000 times, and Geno Smith's been turning heads.
I did draft Geno in a super flex best ball league. I think as my third quarterback, but I didn't expect this. I just said, well, he's starting. I thought maybe he might lose the job at some point to Lock, but I'm like, he's starting, so I took him. But this is in for leagues with 6 points for a passing touchdown. Josh Allen is averaging 36.1 points per game. Lamar's at 31.8, Mahomes 28.8, Hurts 27. And then there's a drop off to Goff at 23.8, and that includes his crappy game this week. So Geno's at 8th, 23.5. I mean, it's been pretty bad.
Bettor Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better.